I'm going to call the Peoria Unified Governing Board to order at 6:04 p.m. on October 23rd, 2025. All board members are present. Moving on to number 2, opening exercises, 2.1, moment of silence, 2.2, pledge of allegiance, and preamble of the Declaration of Independence. Mrs. Bowles, would you like to lead us?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Thank you. Moving on to 3, address agenda. 3.1, address agenda, consider adoption or recommend changes. Board members, do you have any changes you'd like to make? With that, I just need a motion on the floor.
I motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I will second.
So motion made by Clerk Toby and a second made by Mrs. Proudfit. And Azure, if you could run us through a voice vote, please.
Mr. Toby,
Yes.
Ms. Bowles,
Yes.
President Rooks,
Yes.
Mrs. Proudfit,
Yes.
Mrs. Ewing.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion passes with 5 yeas. Moving on to 4 recognitions. 4.1, Mrs. Airy, welcome.
Good evening, President Rooks, members of the board, cabinet, and guests. Today is a very special day, and I have a special recognition for you this evening. You may not know it, but today is National Lights On After School Day. It is a nationwide celebration that shines a spotlight on the incredible after-school programs that provide such a wonderful service to our families and to our communities and make such a great impact here in the Peoria Unified community. We are proud to recognize 2 outstanding programs that help to support what goes on during the classroom by extending the day, both in the morning and in the afternoon, providing enriching and safe activities for our students, and also supporting our families so that they can be able to have that care before and after school. Here in the Peoria Unified School District, as you know, we have an incredible partnership with the City of Peoria. And through that partnership, they run the AM/PM programs, the before and after school programs that take place on all of the campuses within the City of Peoria. Likewise, for our Glendale schools, the Peoria Unified School District runs our Kids Zone programs that provide that same service to be able to allow our families to have that support before and after school. We want to take a moment to highlight both of those programs and celebrate the valuable impact that they make and the enrichment that they provide for thousands of Peoria Unified families over the years and through this school year. They focus on safety, learning, and fun, and they provide that nurturing environment to take care of our students. Here from the City of Peoria, we are so pleased to have the Manager of Family and Youth Services, Mrs. Leslie King, if we can give her a round of applause. And we have an incredible duo representing our Kids Zone program as well. We have Michelle McArdle representing Kids Zone, as well as Mrs. Ashley Worrell, who oversees that program. As we celebrate Lights On After School, we just want to take a moment to thank all of the employees that play such a vital role in supporting those programs. We want to thank the City of Peoria and all of their AM/PM staff, and we also want to pay special recognition to our Kid Zone staff members as well. So President Rooks, at this time, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mrs. Airy. Mrs. Ewing, do you have any comments you'd like to give?
Yes, thank you. I just want to say thank you so much to all of your staff. I've been able to come and see all of your programs, and they're amazing. And of course, we love our partnership with City of Peoria. I've known so many families who've taken advantage of this program, and they absolutely love it. Plus, it's a great thing for our employees who sometimes they stay longer. Then that way, their kids can be in a place where they're having a lot of fun and maybe getting homework done during that time frame. But anyway, I really appreciate it, and I appreciate all your hard work with it, so thank you.
Mrs. Proudfit, comments?
Just thank you for the work you do. Certainly, we want to be providing as much support to the families in Peoria and especially in Peoria School District as we can. I've had a chance to tour, especially Kid Zone over the summer, the incredible work that is done. Just thank you for being a soft place for our students to land.
Mrs. Bowles, any comments?
I do. I haven't visited your Kid Zone. However, I used to work and do exactly what you guys are doing with the City of Peoria. Actually was asked to take over Tiny Tots program at one point, and we started a behavior summer school in Peoria in our district, and so I took that instead. But very familiar with your program, very needed. I was trying to think as they were speaking, like the first time it really made impact on me as a parent was when my foster daughter, because she got state funding, she wanted to be with her friends, and we would leave her after school because my kids just didn't do that. And it really helped her. And even campaigning ran into her rec, I think they called him rec leader at that time, that made major impact on my foster daughter's life. So your job is amazing. But thank you for what you do. And yes, it's a big, great part of many kids' lives and families in our district and in our city. So thank you.
Clerk Toby, do you have any comments?
Yeah, it's great to have a partnership that we have with both programs, and my kids have taken part of both of those programs. And it was definitely a relief for me, whether before or after school, during summer, to have that available and to work through that, especially as working parents. So I appreciate the role that you play in our community and the partnership that we share. Thank you.
Yes, thank you to you and all of your staff, but also to your families, because I know it's a lot of hours after school that you're missing time with your families to help our families in Peoria Unified. So thank you for the hours that you put in with all of your staff, all the projects, all the planning. Very appreciative. And thank you also to the City of Peoria for partnering with your guys' programs, with our district, so that we can offer those opportunities to our families. And thank you again. Moving on to 5, opening public comment, 5.1, request to address the governing board regarding matters not included on the agenda. We do have 2 public comments, so you all have 3 minutes. The first one is Sue. Just says Sue. Okay.
Good evening, Board, Cabinet, Dr. Summers. I understand at the last board meeting, a couple board members made some unfounded complaints about Melissa Ewing. First one said that there was an open meeting law violation complaint filed against her. The other one said that there was an investigation from a couple years ago saying Melissa had knowledge of misconduct of an employee. I would like to have Melissa Ewing give some time to explain herself on these 2 things that were brought up. Thank you.
Ms. Ewing, we will have just one more public comment, and then you can address at the end. Okay. Next public comment is Jean Todd.
Usually called Teddy. I think I forget my own name part of the time. I say welcome, hello to the board. You've worked awfully hard in this last year. And to our staff, all I can say is wow. The amount of time and energy you have put into what has been created for our students. The fact that you even had a handbook that was ready by the time school began and had all the stuff that shouldn't be there gone, and the new cell phone policies and so forth. It's really a benefit to our community, all the work that you have done. I am really here to say, I hope those who haven't voted yet, and those who already voted, have done a yes on our override. It's absolutely critical to support our staff, who is working so hard to make the changes that need to be made for a better education for our students. It is absolutely critical. And the one for West Meck, which is 403 and 406, it needs to be approved as well. Students have always had a hard time getting to those buildings for those programs because we do not really have transportation for them. I'm coming from Ohio, which has a fantastic technology program for all students. Even our academics are correlated with their professions and occupations. But the fact that we could get this approved will give us buildings with programs closer so that students will be able to have that opportunity. And the other thing that it does, education does not stop when you graduate high school. It does give us adult education that will do any kind of retraining that needs for the economic growth of our area. And as long as our area can grow, we'll have enough taxes coming into systems. Arizona's taxes are totally different than what we had in Ohio. What we had in our district stayed in our district. What you have in Arizona gets blended and you get some, and it's not enough. The other, I would like to make a difference between activist and advocate. We need to unify. We all need to be advocates for all students. We do not need activists in education creating chaos. We need to evaluate our own words, our actions, and how we walk what we say. We need to be for all students at all times. Thank you.
And we do have one more public comment. Trina Berg.
Good evening, President Rooks, members of the board, cabinet, guests. First, I want to say, same thing as Ms. Todd, if you haven't sent in your ballot yet, please do. We have just a few days left to make sure that's in and counted on time. And if you have the awesome little text messages from the county that tell you when it's received and sent out and counted and all the things, it's pretty awesome. So please vote. Again, thank you to all the board members who have tirelessly worked to help get this override passed. It's very much needed. I didn't do this before, but I want to give a quick shout out to the MET program who had that open house. I was able to take my son who had no idea what was happening. He's an 8th grader and doesn't know what he wants to do in life or anything. And I was able to take him and just give him a chance to see, and he's already looking forward to learning some cybersecurity in the future, which I think is an awesome idea for him. So thank you to the Met for opening up your doors and allowing us to see that program and to help recruit our students younger so that they know kind of what's out there. That's more than just what Ironwood's going to be able to provide. A couple meetings ago, I asked at the end of the meeting for a policy that would do things like protect our lunches. And I understand the questions after that were like, well, how often do we actually miss lunches and whatever? And those are great questions and it's good data to have. I can tell you who misses them and who doesn't get the full 40 minutes or even sometimes 30 minutes. It's high school teachers that don't have a prep but also have a lunch duty, which does not happen all the time, but it does happen. And anytime we have a heat advisory or a rainy day schedule at the elementary school, those teachers are losing time in their lunch. But I think a better question to ask is, are we willing to have policy that actually protects teacher working conditions? Because right now we have none. We are the big district, the only district in this area that doesn't have a working interest-based negotiations with the local union or local association in the district. And that's where those things usually happen, and we don't have that. We have literally nothing in this district that has any policy that protects anything for teacher working conditions. So I figured that was just an easy, nice little first step. Lastly, at the closing comments in the last board meeting, I brought up the Turning Point clubs, and I went back because I wanted to make sure my words were correct and that I heard things because it's difficult to remember sitting here. But in an hour, 45 minutes in, the quote was from President Rooks, Ms. Bowles brought up the Club Americas, the Turning Point USA Club Americas are starting chapters at some of the schools. And I want to remind you that wording matters. The wording it that way makes it sound like they are coming to us and seeking out the ability to start the clubs, which should never happen because they should always be student-led and student-driven. I also said there was a rumor that a board member was approaching students and suggesting that they start comments. And I wasn't actually talking about you at all, but you got I felt very defensive after that meeting. There's a big difference between a student asking you, like, how do I do this? And you directing them how to do that and do that process. That is totally fine, and that's never an issue, and I didn't think I had to distinguish between the two. But what I heard was a board member specifically seeking out a student and saying, you should start a chapter, and that is never okay. Thank you.
That concludes our public comments. Mrs. Ewing, I don't know if you want to, and if any other board members after that.
Okay, thank you. So my name was brought up last board meeting. There was a statement that there had been a Attorney General complaint filed for an open meeting law violation. The only thing I can say on that is I haven't received any sort of notification at this particular point in time. And then with regards to my name being mentioned in social media and then up here on the board that I was somehow aware of employees' unprofessional conduct. I was not aware of that and only became aware that my name had been put in records was when it was out there on social media from a records request. I have since asked that it be noted that I wasn't the center of the investigation, that I didn't have any information to suggest that I had any sort of knowledge of that. And so that's where we are with that. And I guess things happen where board members get mentioned in records and then they don't find out until it's out there with public records, but I had no knowledge of that. So that's really all I have to say on that, because I do think that we need to be spending our time talking about teaching and learning and students, and we need to be spending our time advocating, as Ms. Todd said, for all students at this time, and that's where our focus needs to lie. But since it was asked by a community member what was the status of that, I felt compelled in transparency and accountability to make sure the community is aware. So thank you.
Ms. Bowles, you were also mentioned in public comments. I just want to make sure if there's anything that you wanted to say.
I don't know if it was directly directed toward me, but I will say I've had students that contacted me that are starting Turning Point Action chapters in high schools. And if you don't know about it, it's an amazing, can't think of the word right now. It's an amazing group that teaches and gives to the district. And I think I mentioned last board meeting that we actually had someone from Turning Point reach out to one of the high schools, and it didn't happen for whatever reason, I think timing, but they were, giving money to put flags on the campuses for 9/11 and a bunch of things that they're just amazing, promoting patriotism and what our country was founded on. And it doesn't matter, skin color or your sexual orientation or, it's time to bring things together and start bringing things to the table and start talking about the hard things. And I believe in that, whether I agree with you or not. We need to start having conversations. So that's all I really want to say to that.
All right. With that, we will move on to 6, board and superintendent comments. 6.1, board member comments. Mrs. Ewing.
Thank you. So first off, I want to say a couple of us were able to be at the Peoria High School Academic Awards ceremony, and that was really awesome. Always great to see our students getting awards and being recognized for their just how well they are doing academically, and appreciate all those teachers and staff who put that together. I also want to give a shout out to Frontier Elementary staff and their PTO. They hosted the Peoria United Parent Council group meeting over there. This is Thursday, so that was Tuesday night they hosted them. And it was just really well done. And Miss Rodriguez over there, she put on a fantastic presentation on school finance, which is never easy to understand, but everyone came away feeling like they could go out in the community and talk and so forth, and it was a real great opportunity for lots of questions to get answered, so she did a phenomenal job there. So just wanted to say thank you, and Miss Airy was there as well, so thank you so much for answering those community members' questions and stuff, so that was really great. And then I did attend South Peoria leadership meeting. It's put on over at the City of Peoria Police Department is where they have the meeting. And so they had some just really great things to talk about down there. I talked to an individual with the city, and we talked about his particular department on how he thinks he can help us get some folks or students to be able to help with some of our projects at some of our schools. So I'm going to be trying to figure out how we can get them connected. So that was really exciting. Yes, get your ballot in. I can't tell you, I've been out to so many schools where I've been handing out whether knock doors or handing out information to individuals in the car pickup lines, and they're like, oh, that yellow envelope, you mean that's my ballot? You're like, yes, that's your ballot, and please make sure you open it and also vote yes. It needs to be dropped in the mail by October 28th. And then I just want to say that the only polling place after, I think it's the 27th, it's actually, I'm looking for a nod from Danielle over there, the only polling place in all of Peoria Unified School District is this district office. So between the 27th all the way to the 4th, you can drop off your ballot here. It's not an actual physical polling or voting location, but you can come here to drop off your ballot. So encourage folks to drop it in the mail. It's much closer than actually driving it all the way here. And then the last thing I'll say is when I was out over in Westbrook Village and we were knocking doors, I think I hit 70 that day. And I can't tell you how many retired teachers, retired librarians. I met somebody who had been a librarian, a teacher. She'd also done some work in vocational rehab, and then she was also a board member in Southern Arizona as well. So just really great, those conversations, and just listening to them about their experiences and how important education is and how much support is out there. So I just really appreciate those stories. So vote yes and get it in as soon as possible. Thank you.
Mrs. Proudfit, board member comments.
I wanted to first talk about a conference that I was able to attend over the weekend with Mrs. Bowles, with Dr. Summers, and with Mrs. Rodriguez. We were able to go to the conference. It was a training for school board members put on by Superintendent Boggs and Director Dillard. Since being on the board, I really tried to not miss any conferences or trainings, and so I've been to a lot, put on by a lot of different organizations, and I will say that this conference was so well done. There was incredible information, and I feel like I left that conference with a lot of tangible resources of things we can implement in our district, which you'll be hearing more of with future meeting requests. But I just wanted to say thank you to the staff at Maricopa County Superintendent's Office. They really put on an incredible conference, and thank you to Dr. Summers and Mrs. Rodriguez for making sure that they attended. I think we all really enjoyed it. I have been spending a lot of time working on the override, supporting the board's 5-0 vote, but I wanted to highlight, I think we've all as board members been working on it, but I did want to say thank you to Mrs. Ewing because, I've been out there knocking doors and doing all the things, but she has been like 6 hours a day for the past couple months. Like she has been above and beyond with this override, and so I just wanted to say thank you for just really, man, putting your shoulder to the wheel and getting it done. You have absolutely been incredible with that. And so I had the opportunity to canvas a lot this weekend, a few times this week with students, which is always my favorite, talking to and explaining to students who are so interested in civic responsibility and what an override is and why it affects them. And so it's really exciting to watch students get involved. And I will say, I may have a more harsh view. Mrs. Ewing was really nice about it. I'll say, like, if you want to show up and complain, my first question is, did you vote? Because if you didn't, that is like the bare minimum of what all of us have to do, is to show up and vote, to educate ourselves and show up and vote. So, and we're lucky in Arizona, it's so easy to vote. It literally is a ballot that comes to your house. So for me, if you want to complain to me, yes, I'll listen to you, but please vote. Please just vote. And then I wanted to, you know, some of the things we have to talk about as a school board are rough. I would say, me and Mrs. Bowles, as we were sitting during the sex trafficking presentation, these things are hard to listen to. But I wanted to give a shout out to Director Richards, our Safety and Security Director, who gave us a great training on school board members' active shooter situations, just how to protect ourselves. And just know that these hard conversations, as awful as they are, that they are being had, and that we are taking proactive measures as a district to protect the district as a whole, and most especially to protect our precious students from what exists in the world today. And that is all I have. Thank you.
Mrs. Bowles, board member comments.
I do. On Saturday evening, I was able to go to the Arizona Education Foundation Teacher of the Year Awards. It was an interesting, my daughter was with me, and I don't know how really to describe it. It was very, very neat, but it was not what I expected. And I would describe it more of, you know, more personal, more intimate. There was a lot of people there, but it was, you know, not super formal and, you know, all those things. And it was actually very cool. And just, I didn't realize how far-reaching that award is, and so that was really neat to go to. I also want to say, along with Ms. Rodriguez and Dr. Summers and Ms. Profit, that we went to an outstanding governing board training, and I wouldn't say it if it weren't true, on Friday and Saturday, and having participated in numerous other trainings, walking away from there with relevant information that I've never heard, and very informative. And some of the sessions were on school safety grants, professional development, open meeting law, special education, district finances, which was a two-day teaching, which was intense. But kudos to Dr. Summers, who there were some times I think it was, you know, not the best information being presented for him to sit there and go to the training, and I just want to put a shout out that he was there and he was listening, and I'll address one of the reasons why I'm saying that later in the board meeting. So anyway, it just gave us valuable insights and practical guidance to be an effective board member. There was not training out there that I've had, and I've spoken to many that have been on boards for a number of years as well. So I want to put a shout out and a thank you to Maricopa County School Superintendent Shelley Boggs, and the Leadership Institute is who organized that impactful event. And with that, all I have.
Clerk Toby, do you have any board member comments?
Yes, thank you, President Rooks. Good evening. This past weekend, I had the honor of attending the 78th Annual Air Force Ball themed Masters of the Air, hosted by Luke Air Force Base and led by Brigadier General David Birkeland. General Birkeland shared powerful remarks about the precision and professionalism of the men and women in uniform who carried out the recent B-2 deployment mission targeting uranium enrichment sites in Iran, a mission that helped prevent the development of potential nuclear weapons. The mission relied on extensive support of flight crews, refueling aircraft, mission planners, and protection of F-35s, piloted by the men and women trained right here in the 56th Fighter Wing at Luke Air Force Base. And while I can't confirm or deny that some of these same pilots, crew members, and support personnel once walked the halls of Peoria Unified, I can say this, that in Peoria, we do prepare our students to shape tomorrow. And the general story is a powerful reminder of what that looks like in action. I'd also like to thank General Berklin for allowing me to get an up-close and personal look at one of the F-35 aircrafts on the base at the hangar. What an incredible warfighting machine built and flown by the very best. Speaking of shaping tomorrow, I want to recognize Mrs. Pasley from Desert Harbor Elementary School, who was awarded today the Shaping Tomorrow Award from the board for her remarkable work advancing reading and literacy among her students. Mrs. Pasley doesn't just teach to the grade level, she pushes her students beyond it. After hearing from a parent whose child thrived in her class, I knew it was only right to honor her dedication to excellence. At the recent Liberty versus Centennial football game, many noticed our improved and updated safety protocol that we piloted that evening. I can't really share the operational details of everything, but I am proud to report that our efforts were successful in preventing actual weapons, plural, from entering the campus or the event. I think it's really important that we need to recognize where we live and that these things do happen. And we can't just keep our heads buried in the sand and pretending that it doesn't happen. And so I want to thank all of our safety partners and personnel that were out there at the game who made it possible to run such a very successful event. We'll always be continuing to advance and elevate our safety practices as our district grows, ensuring that every student, family, and staff member feels safe, welcome, and protected while on our campuses and at our events. On the topic of safety, I do want to address the ongoing federal shutdown and its direct impact on our district. Peoria Unified relies on federal funding for roughly about 10% of our overall budget, including programs that directly support student safety and student well-being. Currently, our district is unable to move forward on several projects, including one that we're considering tonight for the Bureau of Justice School Violence Prevention Program grant. Those funds are designated to enhance campus safety and are on hold until the federal government reopens. I personally reached out, or tried to reach out, to the offices of Senator Mark Kelly and Ruben Gallego, only to be met with a recorded message saying that due to the shutdown, no one was available to take my call. So tonight, I am publicly urging our federal leaders, Senator Kelly and Senator Gallego, to reopen the government so schools like ours can continue serving our students and working on school safety. The current continuing resolution opens the government for 4 weeks. 4 weeks. Enough time to negotiate any priorities that you may have, but it says yes to school safety and student needs. It bothers me how the shutdown like this, that our Congress continues to get paid while schools like ours are left waiting to use these funds allocated for protection and services of our children. And to me, that's unacceptable. I will continue to advocate for Peoria's students until those dollars are unlocked and our safety priorities can move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm going to first start off with thanking Superintendent of Maricopa County, Shelley Boggs, her director, Michelle Dillard, for the free training that they did host. I was unable to attend. My one son was at home throwing up. So just, yeah, I was very bummed to miss out on this one. And what was so great is she's also working on future trainings for superintendents, for cabinet members, for teachers and other staff members in schools. And so I just want to applaud them for the trainings that they're going to be offering coming down the road. And when it comes free at a cost, no cost to our taxpayers, I think that that's a good thing to look at. Next up, yes, Peoria High School had their academic awards this morning. I attended with Clerk Toby, Mrs. Ewing, and the principal there. He talked about their 3 R's that they instill on the students at Peoria High School, and that is reflect, respect, and responsibility. And I just think that those were great key factors to instill into our students at Peoria High School. And I just want to say congratulations to all those students and their families, and thank all of the staff for putting that together for the students and families this morning. I did attend a couple of things the past couple days. The cross-country district meet was on Wednesday at Paloma Park. That was all of our high school cross-country teams from the boys and girls teams. Maddie Malloy took first place from Liberty High School, and Andrew Fastrup from Sunrise Mountain High School. I hope I didn't butcher their names, but it was really great to see everything set up, all the work that they put in, the coaches, the staff, the families that take their kids and drop them off at 6 a.m. for those practices, and then to have that big end of the year meet is just great to see. All the kids are so excited. Everybody's cheering on. They're all cheering on the other schools. They're all cheering on the other runners, even though they're not from their school. And I just loved seeing that, that we're still cheering on other teams. And Liberty High School did take home the trophies for boys and girls cross country. So I want to say congratulations to them and their coaches. And it was a great experience on Wednesday. And I know Dr. Summers was bummed to miss it, but I know he said he'll attend next year, hopefully. So next is thank you to all the staff that have been hosting trunk or treats at a lot of our schools, elementary schools, high schools. That is just a great experience to see for all of our students to participate with their families. So thank you for all the hours that you put in there. And then I did attend today. I want to thank the district, City of Peoria, and the University of Arizona. We did the Water Project Day. I'm looking to Miss Airy to make sure I get it correct. I was actually there as a parent volunteer for my own child's class, but it was great to see some of the staff members came up and they were excited to see me there and just showcase what water conservation was about that day and teaching it to the students and them learning about all of those areas it was a great experience to see. So thank you for Dr. Hernandez. I believe some of your team members were there. And so thank you for setting that up. It was great to see. And last, I will just end with, it's just very disheartening that we have Senators Ruben Gallego, Mark Kelly. They need to be held accountable for choosing to shut down the government instead of putting Arizona families and students first. While they push for billions in federal spending to cover illegal immigrants, our schools are left waiting for the resources they desperately need. This isn't leadership, it's betrayal. Our students, teachers, and parents in this district are paying the price for the reckless priorities. Instead of funding classroom support, school safety, and special education, Gallego and Kelly are standing by as taxpayer dollars are directed toward housing, healthcare, and benefits for people who broke our laws to enter this country. Arizona families are tired of being ignored. The federal budget should serve American citizens, not illegal immigrants. The government needs to be reopened immediately, and the first priority must be getting education funding back to the classroom where it belongs. Senators Gallego and Kelly need to stop playing politics, stop funding illegals, and start standing up for Arizona's children and hardworking taxpayers. Our district and our nation's future depends on it. And that concludes my board member comment. Dr. Summers, 6.2, Superintendent comments.
Thank you, President Rooks, governing board members, cabinet, guests. So appreciate the shout outs to all sorts of great things that are happening, continuing to happen across the community. So I'll just add to that by bringing forward last week, Peoria elementary students planted 30 new trees across their campus through a community-based grant with APS. These trees not only enhance the beauty of the campus, but also provide students with a meaningful opportunity to give back, as well as apply learning in a real-world context. Several grade levels have even adopted trees and given them names. I'm very proud of our students' commitment to campus stewardship, and especially want to thank our partnership with APS and their investment into our schools. This Saturday as well marks our Love Our Schools Day, a Peoria Unified tradition now in its 5th year. This volunteer event unites our community around service and pride in our neighborhood. Across the district, volunteers will plant flowers, refresh bulletin boards, write thank you notes, and complete projects that show tangible love for our campuses. I invite everyone to stop by at a participating school and witness the spirit of service that makes Peoria Unified such a special place. In the spirit of more of our district-wide events, we have our Peoria Unified Marching Band Showcase on Monday, beginning at 6 p.m. at Cactus High School. We'll have all 7 of our award-winning bands that will take the field for 15-minute performances, each showcasing their halftime programs. The students and the directors invest countless hours of practice and precision, as well as all the support from our parents and boosters. And this evening truly will celebrate their artistry and their teamwork. And I hope our community will join in celebrating their incredible talent and dedication. Last week, our transportation department participated in a creative customer service training exercise where staff guided someone who had never made a PB&J sandwich through the process step by step. While most sandwiches may not have been lunchbox ready, the exercise illustrated how critical, clear, detailed communication is to our daily success. So I want to celebrate and acknowledge the collaboration between our transportation and our communications and public relations teams in elevating customer service and ensuring our internal and external communication systems continue to improve. This work also directly connects to one of our district's key performance indicators, improving our commitment to customer service and, as well, our relevant professional learning content. And it reflects our shared commitment to making every interaction with Peoria Unified a positive one. So big shout out there. And speaking of our transportation team, this week is National School Bus Safety Week, a time to honor the vital role our transportation professionals play in getting students to and from school safely every day. From drivers to dispatchers to mechanics and our routers, it takes an extraordinary team to transport more than 10,000 students daily with safety and care. So thank you to our entire transportation team for the professionalism and heart that you bring into this essential work. And then just piggybacking earlier on the comments from Mrs. Bowles and Mrs. Proudfit, thank you for your attendance, as well as Mrs. Rodriguez for being at the recent Maricopa County School Board Member Conference hosted by County Superintendent Shelley Boggs, as well as the Leadership Institute and Superintendent Boggs' team. The conference provided valuable sessions focused on legislative updates, governance best practices, and community transparency. And I also appreciated the opportunity to connect in more detail with both Mrs. Bowles and Mrs. Proudfit to discuss how these themes intersect with our ongoing work in Peoria Unified, particularly around improving access to district information. And as part of that effort, just letting you all know that our superintendent contract is now posted on our district website, which reflects our continued commitment to openness and alignment with community expectations. So looking forward to additional opportunities, and again, grateful for all the great engagement and partnership, along with our entire governing board, and for the ongoing collaboration that strengthens our shared governance on behalf of our students and our families. And with that, President Rooks,
Thank you, Dr. Summers. Moving on now to 7 discussion items. 7.1, first read policy, new policy 1-204- No Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, DEI initiatives. We do have public comment tied to this line item, so I will go through that. You will have 3 minutes. First public comment is Trina Berg.
Good evening, President Brooks, members of the board, cabinet. My name is Trina Berg. I'm a parent and teacher in this district. I'm here to discuss this policy. First off, the definition of DEI that you have here is a very just kind of perverted, incorrect meaning of the definition, and I'm not really even sure where that definition came from. This seems like one of those things that has just been said politically over and over and over again to make something that should not be controversial, controversial. The critical race theory thing. In the hundreds of thousands of dollars that we have paid in public records requests, is this like an actual issue? Have we found overwhelming evidence that our district was participating in critical race theory? I mean, this was a huge thing that you were after the whole time you were campaigning and running for the board, Ms. Rooks. So I'm curious if you actually found like extensive evidence that this is happening. Because I know listening to other people, this was like so pervasive, it was so obvious, it was everywhere. So I'm just curious if that's like a real thing. The culturally responsive learning, restorative practices. Again, I feel like we don't really know what these things mean, and we're trying to demonize something that shouldn't be demonized. The policy statement at the bottom of the first page says that the district will not support or engage in programs, curricula, or initiatives explicitly focused on diversity, equity, inclusion, blah, 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 blah. And I feel like that's going to bring us right back to the arts issue that we just dealt with earlier this year, that you had over an hour of public comment of people, parents, students, former students, everyone else that were like, what are you doing? If we really are going to hold to this, are we like, we're not going to be able to do those things. So then the tears that we saw at the end of that meeting and the comments and like, this isn't what I'm trying to do, like, you're literally, this is what you're trying to do. So I said it before, I'll say it again, you are creating this problem. My other question is, would this remove like Black History Month? What about showcasing women in science, Latino, Latina like contributions? What about the Middle East golden age of science and math during the European dark ages? Are we gonna have to pull back on that stuff? Because we shouldn't. We should be celebrating our diversity. We should be celebrating the things that make this nation great and the contributions to all. I mean, I remember when we did the history of Peoria Unified, we had board members who were upset about the fact that we like addressed the diversity and inclusion of this district throughout its whole history. Also, in the policy guidelines, the curricular content, we will not adopt or implement any curricular materials, library books, teaching practices, whatever. I'm pretty sure that we have a sitting board member who, when looking through the adoption for ELA, saw a picture of Maya Angelou in the book and said, "This is DEI." The district will not require endorsed fund training programs, blah, 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 that have DEI. Even if we sign a thing saying we're not going to do that, you are literally going to make us the district that cannot attend any PD outside of our school district. Like that's an asinine decision to make. How are we going to recruit teachers if we're like, hey, you can't go to any trainings ever anywhere? Thank you.
Next public comment comes from Emily.
Good evening to the board. I too have some concerns, pretty significant concerns regarding the policy. To put it simply, it's bad policy. It's harmful to students. It's harmful to families. I have multiple concerns, but obviously I only have 3 minutes. So very broadly speaking, the definitions identified in the policy, the concepts, they are inaccurate. They are not true, and honestly, they border on very biased opinion. If a student in my undergraduate or graduate class handed me this and I had to grade it, I would say, cite your source, make sure it's credible, hand it back to them, because it is not fact, it is not accurate. I am familiar with the concepts. I'm not an expert in the area, but due to my academic training, due to my professional training, I think I have a little bit more knowledge than the average person off the street. And again, these are not accurately depicted. For example, I'm not going to go through every one, but for restorative practices, these aim to build community and repair and restore relationships between a transgressor and a victim. The victim or the transgressor actually accepts more accountability and apologizes, recognizes that what they did was harmful. Again, repairing, healing that relationship, which from what I have heard even today, we need that, right, in our community, in our district. I'm also deeply concerned about the policy guidelines. We are a diverse district, and that diversity should be and needs to be represented in the books our children read, in the lessons that they are taught. Just considering what's happened, nationally, I fear that if this policy passes, learning about the Navajo code talkers, the Tuskegee Airmen, will be prohibited. Learning about Japanese internment during World War II, that we have an internment camp in Arizona, will be prohibited from being taught. And I didn't know that till I was in my 30s. So I don't even think it's being taught now. Let's be honest, right? Can we have books about Cesar Chavez? I don't know. Can we have books about Sandra Day O'Connor? Possibly not. Harvey Milk, he was a white man, politician who happened to be gay. Probably not. Temple Grandin, if you know who she is an amazing scientist, looks at animal behavior, also has autism. Can we learn about her life? Probably not, because she is neurodiverse, and that would be inclusive. The list could go on and on and on. And again, I'm down to 37 seconds. So we definitely need these books. Removing these books and lessons that teach about diverse communities and individuals perpetuates racism. That is apparent. I know board members have said the U.S. is not racist. Talk to my husband, who was in military, 25 years in the Air Force. I told you in August that a child called him a ching chong. Is that not racist? Because I think it is. I encourage you all to look at the research, rely on content experts to hopefully just oppose this policy, because it's trash.
Next public comment comes from Kate.
Good evening, President Rooks and board members. My name is Kate. I'm a concerned community member in the Peoria Unified School District. When I was in school, which admittedly was some time ago, I learned about America being the great melting pot. And I remember at the time being proud to live in a country that celebrated diversity, equity, and inclusion, even though those were not the terms we used at the time. As an adult, of course, we now know that while we aspired to these values, we have not always lived up to them. Some of us assumed that as we grew as a nation, we would evolve into a more curious and open-minded people, less fearful and less prejudiced. So now I am surprised that we are supposed to be fearing these things. Diversity, equity, and inclusion are not political buzzwords. They do not belong to one specific group. They are tools for all of us to use to make sure every student in our schools gets to learn in a safe and supportive environment and get an equal shot at success. Diversity is what this country is about. It is the beautiful tapestry of our nation. Equity does not mean lowering of standards. It means making sure every student has the support they need to meet the same high expectations. Culturally responsive teaching is a proven approach that helps teachers connect lessons to students' real lives so they can learn more effectively. When students feel respected and connected at school, they do better academically, and they are less likely to face bullying, depression, or dropout. I believe it is the responsibility of this school district to ensure our diverse student population is treated equally and that every student feels safe, supported, and included. Thank you.
Next public comment comes from Suzanne Yee.
Good evening, board again, cabinet, Dr. Summers. I agree with all three of the people who spoke before me. The part that bothered me the most about this policy was that you want to take away professional development completely. And you wrote in your policy that even if they sign the attestation form that Dr. Hernandez made up and you agreed to, that they still shouldn't be allowed to go to any professional development if there's any DEI classes anywhere near. That's ridiculous. You're hurting our students. Does special education fall under DEI? Expanding rights and opportunities for students with disabilities is deeply intertwined with broader shifts in thinking about inclusion and access. DEI initiatives have created inclusive educational environments where all students can access equitable opportunities regardless of ability, race, or background. Does autism fall under DEI? Neurodiversity is an often forgotten aspect of DEI programs, and the obliteration of these initiatives will spell disastrous consequences for Americans with ADHD, autism, and other forms of neurodivergence. We are a diverse district. We are a public district. We need to serve all our students. Thank you.
Next public comment comes from Teddy Todd.
Thank you for listening to us. Whoa. All right. I really wish that the presentation on this policy could have been done first and then we make comments, and then I could have gotten rid of some of my comments, because now I don't know which ones I should really say. But this is where I am with this. In looking at this document, I don't know where it comes from. I don't know which is the difference between black and red. I'm assuming red may be Heather's comments. I don't know. Black has got to come from somewhere. There is no law with this. There's no legal authority with this. It must be standing on its own. I'm just not sure where everything comes from. When we're looking at these, words have changed and definitions with them all through education, and I'm old. So the words that they're using now are not the words we used before. And we have the letter that was from government that states DEI goodbye. And we have our own resolution that talked about these items. And we really worked hard in the textbook committees for elementary and high school, for all of the civics, the government, and the history, to take care of these issues. So I'm not sure if we really need all of this, but something must have come up somewhere while I've been gone that is saying we need to look at this. Couple of straight items in here. Things to really think about. When we write policy, it cannot be too tight that it doesn't work for future. So we have to be careful with the wording. And when we use wording in here that is designated a certain kind for right now, that won't apply later. And maybe it's not even around at this point. I do know that in the textbook reviews we did, critical race theory, gone. DEI, gone. SEL, gone. We have textbooks now because this district required the publishing company to fix them and to get the wrong stuff out of them. So, and I don't even know what culturally responsive learning is. I'm afraid that must be really new, and it's not in my vocabulary of education. 35 years worth. Restorative practices, basically that has been removed out of handbooks and so forth. That's not a super good thing either. The one in here also that was just mentioned by someone else here just a few minutes ago, professional development, you're not going to find DEI out of everything in the United States. It's not going to happen.
Sorry, Ms. Todd, the time is up. I know it went quick.
Darn.
Sorry.
Thank you for listening to that much.
Okay. Next with a comment comes from Charmel Boster.
Good evening, President Rooks, Board, Cabinet members, Dr. Summers, and all visitors here and those that are listening online. I do have some concerns. Some of them have already been voiced, but I would like to bring a couple more out. The main one I had was number 2 under the policy guidelines, and we've already gone through getting our fine arts departments memberships renewed so our kids could go to these things and our teachers could get professional development. However, what I see happening with this policy is it's either going to limit or deny some of our, if not all, of these people to go to professional development. I can speak only really for the music people because there's only one music organization that they have a choice to go through professional development. So I just don't see it as being a good thing. The second thing that I have that came to my mind, and this came up several meetings ago, with the vendors, with a policy like this, it's also going to limit or deny vendors that would potentially want to do business with us, but because of a policy like this, they're going to be denied. That came up with Smart and Final. There were some DEI questions, I think, on that, but you did vote to go with it. Nobody else responded. So if the word gets out that this is a district that's not going to go because of a few little minor things, they're not going to respond. You can put out all the calls there. So I think that's the other thing that you need to think about. My fear of this policy is, especially if it's left in this format, is that you're going to box yourselves in and have to make decisions that you don't want to make, that's either going to make you go against your own policy, or else it's going to not be good for the district, not providing professional development, or other things that may come up because of this policy is definitely not the best thing for this district. Thank you for listening to me.
And that concludes public comment. So Mrs. Ewing, I don't know if you have any comments that you would like to give or questions regarding the first draft.
Yes, I do. Thank you. So first off, a request that I want to make, I don't know if it would be to Dr. Summers or President Rooks, if it's to you, but we as a board are usually kept, whether we do it personally, we're kept pretty aware of the most recent court rulings and so forth. And we had a speaker bring up that the Dear Colleague letter has a lot of the DEI language in there. So I just think it would be helpful when we come back with a second reading to maybe just have like, even if it's just a memo of the update of the most recent court rulings with regards to DEI, just so our community can be as educated on that as well, because unfortunately, this continues to be an area that is not well defined by the courts. And that just with the Dear Colleague letter, that there was a court ruling that talked about how the language in there was vague and so forth. And you can find that anywhere publicly. You can look that up. But I just think it would be helpful for our community to have that understanding of that background. So that would be just be my first request. And then so thinking about the ruling that talked about definitions being vague and what was the word that it was using? Vague, just not really well described. We need to make sure that any time we're putting definitions in our policies, number one, they need to be in alignment with law, and number two, they need to be well defined so that they can take that information and put it into practice so our staff fully understands how this applies in practice. So I think I would make some suggestions on trying to make the definitions be much more well-defined. But one of my big points that I want to make is that, and I think most people here are aware, but in public schools, we are required to do so much reporting. And we are required to do disaggregated reporting, which Dr. Hernandez has introduced that terminology with us, but that's where the data has to be separated out into subgroups of minority groups or so forth, and that's what we're required to do. And we can't just report on the data and then do nothing about how that data comes out. Then we're required to have targeted interventions and so forth. So naturally out of that, this is my argument, is naturally out of that you have DEI conversations. And because that's what we're being required to do. We have to report it out. We have to make sure we have targeted interventions. We have growth and proficiency levels we have to meet. And then because of that, if we fall below certain things, then we also have required trainings that go along with that as well. So that could fall all underneath the requirement of DEI. So we don't want to create a policy that hamstrings our teachers to get the skills that they need to make sure that that statement we have, that every student every day, that every learner that comes into Peoria Unified, their needs are going to be addressed. So we just want to be really careful about the language in this policy because I had a lot of those concerns that the way that this training and professional development works is it does not, we wouldn't be able to stay compliant with our reporting requirements with like ESSA, with IDEA, Title IV, Title IX. There's program reviews and improvements that are required as a result of those. And so I think we just really, really have to, I don't know if that's finagling it with our lawyer or if it's just simplifying all of this instead of trying to get into the weeds. Maybe it just needs to be a much more simplified version of a policy. So as Ms. Todd, I believe, said that going forward, our policy can adapt to the changes that happen in the courts and in the definitions that are out there. So that was a lot, but hopefully, Ms. Rooks, you caught all of that because I know you have to take that back. But that's my opinion. Those are my suggestions.
Thank you. Mrs. Proudfit?
This issue of DEI and some of the things that have come out, this is an incredibly difficult topic to really wrap your hands around. And that I believe was Mrs. Rooks's intent with bringing this forward. And I always will applaud the bringing forward of opening a discussion with our community and how exactly we wrap our hands around this. Policy, particularly with this, depends on a lot of legality that's still very active in our court system. Of course, state statute and federal law will always supersede district policy. So to some of the points, and I don't remember who said it, making sure we don't box ourselves in. And then for me, it's focusing on the why of what are we trying to accomplish with this policy. Not what are we trying to avoid, but what are we trying to accomplish? And I think we can all agree that with everything, we are always trying to accomplish the best academic outcomes for our students. We're trying to promote excellence within our education system to assure, and I wrote it down, I'm not sure who said it, but that all of our students are safe, that they're supported, and that they're learning. And I think that we can all agree, no matter where you're at with this issue or wrapping your head around it, that that is what we're after. And then the rest of it is procedure of how do we follow the law and how do we get there. So I'm grateful that this conversation has been opened. Obviously, we had discussed this with our legal counsel in executive session. So due to open meeting law, can't go into that, which stinks because I wish everyone could be in there because it really is a fascinating conversation of how we move forward into this. I will just say this. With all the feedback, I think policy is best served when it is simple, when it is very clear, and I think based on the public comment, my concern is that as we're not there yet. This is a great first step, but we are not close to even there because there's so much confusion, I think, with our staff and parents of what this actually means. So assuring the public that as we move forward into next steps with this policy creation, that that we'll be focusing on ensuring that it is very clear with what not what the intended outcome is, but what the actual outcome will be with this. I also wanted to ensure the community, Dr. Hernandez, I honestly think that we are really leading the way with some of the ways that we've been able to innovate. I know Mrs. Todd brought up textbook committee and ensuring that we are focusing on the things that we need to be focusing on. With conferences, there are some of these things that can't be avoided. I know one of my concerns was in the professional development and policy guidelines too is the way it's worded right now, it prevents us from having any conversations in regards to DEI. Like I mentioned, we were at a conference over the weekend that had, conversations about wrapping our hands around it. Those conversations would be prohibited. And so we're looking at all of those things, but rest assured that our cabinet and our district is, I think, leading the way with ensuring that we are having the outcome that we actually are intending to have, which is that we're not defining our students by extemporaneous measures, that we are looking at them all equally as human beings and ensuring that they have what they need to succeed.
Mrs. Bowles, board member comments?
Yes, first I want to clarify, somebody said that these issues are little minor things. They're not little, they're not minor things. I also want to address the, somebody mentioned in the podium, consulting legal. We always consult legal, whether in the midst of writing policy or the tail end of writing policy. That's just good board governance. So with that, I'm going to keep it as simple as I can. The preamble, which is the first paragraph, the definitions, which is that paragraph in black, the policy statement, I think are well written. I think we should adopt. And in addition to 5 under policy guidelines, number 1, I'm going to restate, and that is all district curriculum programs, professional development shall comply with federal and state anti-discrimination laws and policies. I know there's a lot of confusion around this, and that's very unfortunate, and I wish there was not. I want to be a person that brings clarity to that as much as I possibly can. But anytime you're giving any kind of scholarship, award, thespian I will speak to that because my daughter happened to be not a recipient of that, even though she probably should have been. Based on color, your race, or sex, that is discrimination. It's that simple. For merit, giving scholarships because you earned it. Did you earn it? Did you earn it? Did you earn it? Or did you get it because you're black or purple or, you know, Asian or white or whatever? No matter how you look at that, it's discriminating. That's how I see the difference between DEI and our anti-discrimination laws. So I would welcome any conversation to try to clarify that with anybody. But I think we need to keep it simple and adhere to all state and federal anti-discrimination laws and policies. That's all, thanks.
Clerk Toby, do you have any board member comments?
I'll try not to reiterate what my fellow board members shared, but so in Hebrew, there's a saying, "Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha," to love your neighbor as yourself. And so could this now be considered DEI? Well, given the current definition of DEI, it might. And I think we have to look at, you know, you asked, what problem are we trying to solve? Well, I think over the last twilight years of 2020 to 2024, there's been a lot of redefining of educational terms, of the meanings of what diversity, equity, or equality rather, and inclusion means. And this is the corrective action that has to take place, because I'll just go back to the Teals example. Here in this very district, I think we were, what, one vote away from implementing a technology program that required the district to enroll students in this technology program based on their race. You know, so as Mrs. Bull said, it's flat out racism. So in the name of inclusion, we are excluding certain demographics based on immutable characteristics. So we are taking corrective action as a district to make sure that we are mindful of the Civil Rights Act, that we don't, in the name of DEI, or what was perverted as DEI, trampling on existing rights. So I do think that we need to massage this policy, but I do think that there's valid reasons to have a policy like this, to provide that clarity and guidance, and just reaffirming our stance as a district to federal civil rights statutes, you know, state rights statutes, things of that nature, because definitions have changed, and we are not going to engage in racial discrimination or sexism or any of those things, because it's not good, and we need to stamp it out. Thank you.
So I'll kind of address a couple of things. With regards to, have I ever seen critical race theory? And actually I did. And it was when I first started coming to school board meetings. The second board meeting I came to in 2020, the board that previously sat up here had a presentation from the curriculum department regarding an elective course that would be studying American identities. But they explained, when the board members asked, where is the curriculum? Where is the resources that would be used in this elective course? It was stated at the podium that there was no curriculum drafted. There was no resources ready yet. You're first supposed to approve the idea of the course, and then we'll bring the curriculum. And I can just remember sitting there, and there was so many people here in the crowd that were speaking against it. There were people that were speaking for it, but I could not fathom why we did not have curriculum or resources or whatever was going to be proposed in this elective course. So that started me on my journey of learning about public record requests. And I record requested the curriculum department because I wanted to see, I couldn't understand that concept. I just couldn't understand how you could vote for something you don't know what's going to be taught. And come to find out, in a record request, the curriculum team that participated in that elective course, they had actually emailed each other the curriculum, the resources they would use, the syllabus. They had everything ready to go, but they did not share it with the community in that presentation. And that was really frustrating. But one of the resources that would be used was the 1619 project, which is based off of critical race theory. And I could not believe it as a mom that that was happening in the schools. I could believe it happening out there in the craziness of our world, but I couldn't believe that that was happening in our schools with our kids, because it was fathomable as a mom. I just couldn't believe that. I thought we were sending our kids to school to learn about ABCs, 1, 2, 3. So that was just shocking to see. And with regards to, again, what we're trying to accomplish is, in my mind, the elimination of discriminatory practices. Also, though, taxpayer dollars. I can't tell you, I have been watching all of the comments on Facebook surrounding supporting the M&O, the override on the ballot. And a lot of our community members are frustrated across the country, across school districts that are supporting the DEI initiatives. And a lot of them were bringing up Peoria. And that was really frustrating because we adopted a resolution, we're trying to make progress towards eliminating that so they don't think that we're using their taxpayer dollars to fund these ideas that basically state that America is racist and that the same taxpayers are white supremacists. I don't want to use somebody's money to send our staff to a conference that talks about America being racist and that they're, the same taxpayers that we're asking money from, oh, hey, they're going to label you as a white supremacist. I have a problem with that. And so I don't think it's minor either, because President Trump and the Department of Justice, they have been looking at school districts, universities across the country, and they are pulling back some of the funds from those school districts and from those universities that are pushing these ideas. And so I think we need to start doing that. Let's start being the leader that starts putting discriminatory practices away and focuses on what, Mrs. Bowles said, merit-based. And look at that versus looking at the skin color of somebody. Because I grew up in this school district and I learned about Martin Luther King Jr. and you weren't supposed to look at their skin color. You were just supposed to see them as Dr. Hernandez, Dr. Summers. You look at them and see them as a person. I don't look and see everybody's skin color. I want to get to know the person. I want to know who they are. I want to know about them. I want to have, trunk or treats with them at my kid's school. It's just fathomable that that's what we're coming to nowadays. And I know it was brought up about the, if this policy is put forward, what does that do with our arts programs and our memberships? And I can tell you, Dysart Unified, they don't use taxpayer dollars for the membership dues for those programs. They actually have booster clubs. That's what they do. And so that was an idea maybe for next year to look at and start looking at that now. What would that look like? In regards to trainings, I know that Superintendent Shelley Boggs of Maricopa County just put together an amazing training session with Leadership Institute, and it did not have anything that was promoting DEI or labeling people as supremacists or labeling somebody oppressive or privileged. They focused on, here, this is how you can help your students in the schools. This is what you can do to help develop policy. This is school safety. Those are the conferences that we should be focusing on. And if there is already an organization that is willing to host that for free, I would like to start looking at that. Let's start looking at different organizations and see if they'd be willing to help with our trainings for our teachers, our staff. I have a hard time telling the taxpayers, yes, support the M&O, but we're going to use some of that money, not necessarily the M&O, but we're going to use out of our budget your taxpayer dollars to send staff that money will fund the entire conference. Even though if we tell them, just go to this one course, go to this one, we're still giving the entire money to the entire organization, the entire conference. And I have a hard time with that, asking the taxpayers to fund that kind of stuff, because I want to change that direction. I want to change that idea. And I mean, that's the direction that our federal government is going right now. And I can also, I'll just touch last here on restorative practice. We have later on this evening the school safety grant from the federal level. And unfortunately, a couple months ago in the grant narrative, it was written in there, restorative practice, that we utilize restorative practice. And so that was just frustrating because we're trying to change this trajectory. We're trying to follow federal government. We're trying to be leaders, and we still see that language in a grant narrative. So that's when, like, do we need to make it clear so that everybody understands, so that we have that focus? Because I can tell you in later on you'll see it, there's conditions under that federal grant that it says condition 3. We have to certify that it does not operate any programs, including any such programs having components relating to diversity, equity, and inclusion. And that's from the Department of Justice of the United States. So for me, I don't want to risk, I don't want to take that risk, but also I don't want to use taxpayer dollars to fund this stuff anymore. I would rather focus on merit-based, I would rather focus on academic achievement, and not this stuff that looks at a child or even a staff member's color of their skin and determines that's where they go. I want to see them as a person. So that's kind of the thoughts that I had brought up, and I'm happy to look at condensing it, simplifying it with Dr. Summers so that it's clear and concise. But I just want the community to know that there's some serious accountability coming down from the federal government, and I would rather be the leader than have a misstep along the way. So I don't know if any other board members have anything else? No? All right. So this is just a first read. Dr. Summers, thank you for, I don't know if you want to have any comments regarding some of the board members up here.
President Ricks, Governing Board, I think based on the comments that have been shared, we will be able to produce some revision based on what we're hearing. So I think the only other thing I would add to what has already been discussed is that we will likely be condensing this policy and separating out the current draft of policy guidelines as a separate procedure. And so with that, we will take all the feedback, produce a second read copy that we can bring forward at the next meeting, and then pending potential approval, look at what the procedural aspects of that implementation of policy will require of us.
Sorry, yes, Clerk Toby. Thank you, Dr. Summers.
Yeah, President Ricks, if I may, thank you for being willing to take this back and work with this, condensing it. Along with condensing it, I do think that we need to have this couched in federal law. So actually, like condition number 3 of the grant narrative, when it talks about not only having the diversity, equity, inclusion, but they also include the language that violate any applicable federal civil rights or non-discrimination laws. So maybe we can actually use the federal language and their cited U.S. statutes to firm up our policy. It'd be great.
Thank you for noting that.
Thank you, Clerk Toby, for that information. All right, if no further comments, we will move on now to 7.2, first read policy, new policy 4-201, Employee Code of Conduct. Welcome, Ms. Talia.
Thank you. Good evening, President Rooks, members of the board. I'm here tonight to bring forward a first read on some changes to this policy. Specifically, we had added language in the second paragraph. I'm sure it's on its way up. There we go. And we added the language. We actually pulled this language forward from our prior policy that talked about the standards and expectations of staff being a member of, a leadership and being someone to look up to. So we brought that language forward because we felt very comfortable with that language. It is something that the board had felt comfortable with before and the district had been adhering to. The second change to the policy is under prohibitions. And we added number 32 at a request, I believe, from Mrs. Bowles regarding adding a prohibition about photographing or recording of students during the school day for non-educational reasons and posting on social media accounts and having that as prohibition.
Thank you so much. We do have public comment tied to this line item. So you will have 3 minutes. First public comment is Suzanne Yee. Okay. Teddy Todd.
Board, staff, all of you, and everybody watching. Very few comments. This is really well done, and of course, it's something we've had. Just a couple of comments. When looking at the Employee Code of Conduct, I did go back and I did some more checking. There is a board ethics conduct, a code of conduct, and there is a student code of conduct. So this is fantastic. You've got the employees, you've got the kids, and you've got the board. Everybody's supposed to behave themselves, all right? In looking at the red words in the second line, idealistic, I kind of need a definition of what in the world that's going to mean. In the last line, there's a word associate. It's like, okay, who's that? And I don't see anything for parents or guardians. Students are there. So I just needed a little bit more there. And as we work on number 23 under employees shall, under expectations, what is the procedure for and as directed? That could get sticky. If you need to make that a little more specific, I don't know. Looking at number 27 under prohibitions. Join or support organizations that advocate for the overthrow of the government is a no-no. Somebody better be defining what overthrow of the government means, because it sure has changed in my lifetime. And there are even nonprofits out there that are parts of that. Looking at number 31, this one I honestly can laugh at, but shouldn't. The immoral. Immoral, when I first started teaching, is certainly not the definition immoral is today. What was not accepted then is accepted now. It's like, okay, what is that really going to mean? And I'm just thinking in terms of if these things do happen, how do you as a board back up whatever the district pulls together that is going to be the consequences of these actions? Thank you for listening to me.
Next public comment comes from Charmel Bolster.
Good evening again. First of all, let me say I'm not sure why this came up. If I remember correctly, President Rooks, you were the ones that requested Dr. Summers to come up with a policy like this, although it was never stated why you felt the need for one. So I would like to have that clarified if I could. I don't think I have the same feelings about this maybe as Teddy has, but I guess I need to know why this policy is brought forward, first of all. The other thing is that I counted 57 thy shalls and thy shall nots. That's a lot, considering when God himself only gave us 10 commandments to live by. I think brevity of this, I noticed first of all that this is a policy from the trust. They're not known for their brevity from the other policies they've brought forward. So I do have a problem with that. I know that the district has employee handbooks, and with a lot of these things that are in it. We also just passed a grooming policy that some of these things are in that grooming policy as well. And then the other thing, and as Mrs. Todd brought out, I don't see the need in this policy for using the words idealistic. I think it needs to be brief. I think it needs to be realistic. So those are the main things that I have before you would implement this. First of all, I just need to know why this is necessary when we have a lot of this already in place. Thank you.
Last public comment is from Trina Berg.
Good evening again, and for the final time tonight. Thank you again for this opportunity to speak. I agree with some of the things that were said previously. Some of these things are already in other policies, so I feel like we're being very redundant. Like, we did just pass the policy that says we're not going to engage in any type of relationship with a student. I do have a couple of questions, though. So, like, the employee shall not section, especially. Like number 7, use profanity or abusive language or gestures. Like, are you just talking about in the classroom? I would hope so. I mean, that's kind of an obvious thing, but we also already have policy that says we're not going to do that. But like, I don't know, if I'm outside and some random student sees me flip off someone who just cut me off or something, am I going to be like in trouble because I did that on my own time? Whatever. A couple other things here. Sorry, I gotta like scroll through because I can't highlight and keep it highlighted on here. I actually do appreciate number 32, adding in the photographing, recording videos of students, because that is a very new phenomena. I mean, like, when I first started teaching, that wasn't even that big of a deal. Now it is. So I actually appreciate that inclusion in one of our policies. Number 31, engage in unprofessional and or immoral conduct or conduct unbecoming to the profession. That's one of those things that you could literally pick anything that someone does on social media on their own time and be like, you were violating this policy, because those are very nebulous and very, you get to pick what those behaviors are, and it would be a case-by-case basis, and it's not very like enforceable, because what's unprofessional to you may not be unprofessional to another person. Number 30, apply for a grant or other outside funding, including crowdfunding, or solicit donations without the prior authorization of the superintendent. Dr. Summers, I am very sorry if we have to get approval for all 30 or 4,000 teachers we have in this district that have like an Amazon wish list, because that would fall under that, and that would be a lot of, like, that would be kind of insane to have to do. So I think that one needs a little bit more clarity. I did have a question before that I think was answered. This was a previous policy that was just shifted over to the trust, or this came from the trust? But I think I heard that we already had most of this. And then number 27, as brought up before, join or support organizations that advocate for the overthrow of the government. I can tell you that is also very, you get to kind of pick what that means. Because for some people, if you are a far-right, very ultra-conservative Republican and J6er, guess what? You wanted to overthrow the government. And for other people, if you are this nebulous thing called Antifa, or if you are a very far-left Democrat, I mean, some of you might think that I want to overthrow the government because I am not shy about the fact that I'm a very liberal person. I don't, but for some of you, that's 100% what you're going to think about me. So again, very nebulous and very, based on what you believe, you're going to think the other person feels that way. So I do think there is some room in this policy for fixing, but I do appreciate number 32. Thank you.
That concludes public comment. Mrs. Ewing, do you have any questions or comments?
Thank you. Yes. So I think there's certainly opportunity to take the no grooming policy that we have in place and simplify some of the stuff that we have, and we can take what's in there. Could we make a reference to, you know, a 1 or 2 sentence thing and make a reference to that policy, just to be able to simplify this a little bit more, and not be so repetitive with regards to those behaviors that we already listed in another policy. And maybe that's just an opportunity to cross-reference this policy with the other ones that are in place, and where can we really cut that down, make reference to the behaviors, those other policies. Anyway, you get what I'm saying in that aspect. Okay, and then I do think that I am concerned I read this too about idealistic. I mean, my goodness, I always tell my kids, this is the ideal, but we always know that this is what we strive for. This is the ideal, but that's not realistic. So if the standards must be idealistic, then we expect you to, in my mind, we expect you to be perfect. And so I think that that can be better, if I can just have better wording so that we're not asking them to meet a standard that's unrealistic. And I hate that we are in this day and age that on on 27, under thou shall not, that why is it that we have such a disagreement of who are the groups that would overthrow a government? But I think that you have at one point in time with January 6th, all of that stuff that happened that day, and then you have a lot of rhetoric that's out there in the community about who are those groups and so forth. And so I just think we have to be really careful in how far into employees' lives outside of what they do within our walls do we have the authority and the ability to enforce and find out about all of those things. So I just think that we have to be really careful about being overreaching and but at the same time, I think we can still write a policy that is asking them to be leaders and understand that our students and our families look to them to be leaders and have a sense of professionalism while they are out in the community. So I think there's a balance there, and I'm hoping with our wordsmith ability folks that we have in the district that we can do that. And I hadn't thought about number 30 with the Amazon wish list and stuff, and so I just wonder if there's a way to reword, as Ms. Berg mentioned, applying for a grant. We don't want to have to get, whether it would be Dr. Summers or Marcy Rodriguez, having to constantly approve all of those. Let's look at that for efficiency. So I think those are my concerns. Thank you.
Mrs. Proudfit, do you have any comments or questions?
I'm going to be brief because I'm sure all that I have to say will be redundant, but I'd like this gone over with legal, obviously, with Susan Siegel, and then just with a fine-tooth comb for efficiency. My other request would be that we put handbook references in there because I know a lot of this is like stating the overarching thought, and then we'll probably get a little bit more myopic in the handbook, but there are certain things, teacher dress code, for instance, I'm still unclear of what that is. It's if we have a district for sure policy on that. I know it varies very much between campuses from what I've seen. So I just want to, again, ensure that everyone that is on staff knows exactly what the expectations are or what the district is actually putting forward, because I think a lot of this is pretty vague. Okay, I just had a question on 32. Obviously, definitely needs to be added. What would constitute an educational reason for videoing a student and or posting on social media?
I believe during prior discussions when we were talking about the use of the cell phone, I believe that there was a conversation in that about allowing cell phone use for educational reasons. And then I know that there are district websites and things like that, so I didn't want to minimize that or prevent that. So I was trying to, thread the needle as narrowly as possible, but also then keeping all those other pieces.
Yeah, I think it's hard, as we're looking at the application of the cell phone policy of what is educational and what is not. I just had that question. I don't have the answer. I just,
thank you.
As we continue.
If I may, I see Ms. Airy and
yes.
Dr. Hernandez over there kind of looking at each other, so I don't know who wants to maybe answer that question.
President Rooks, Mrs. Proudfit, an example would be you see on social media through the schools' social media pages. Today we're visiting AP, Lit, and Comp. The students are learning about, and they'll have an example of, and they'll have students demonstrating the learning. Another example, but again, this specifically says non-educational reasons and personal social media. The only reasons that I can think of would be for educational resource, demonstrating the learning, or you'll see over at the Met Academy, the students are working on the digital skeleton piece, and you'll see the teacher recording that piece as they're pointing out the different organs and how they function and whatnot. But again, this is the personal posting and for non-educational reasons.
So I think that verbiage, exactly what you said, makes total sense. Just maybe including that in there of demonstrating learning, and then we have all parents who are okay with their students being photographed. We have the parents sign that paper. So just to add in, just to further clarify what that is, because that's another one of those vague ones that so yeah, just exactly what you said. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Mrs. Bowles, do you have any questions or comments?
I guess I want to start by saying this is a policy for employee code of conduct. So let's stay on that topic. And with that said, they're an employee paid by our constituents, really. And so I personally don't know of any other job that you can negotiate your code of conduct like we are doing right now, but keep the main thing, and that is employee code of conduct. Somebody mentioned about, wow, that we have to put in here professional, respectful, dignified. Fair is not a word that is in my vocabulary because that is way too vague in the eye of the beholder. But it's sad that we live in a day and age right now that we call evil good and good evil, and that we have to define these things. And I don't know if I'm more concerned about that or that we're arguing, hey, can we use profanity when I step off the curb? Like, I don't know. Again, this is a paid employee code of conduct that we're talking about. So I'll leave number 7 alone because I don't want people using profanity in my own workplace or around my children especially. They're minors for a reason. So again, I'll leave that alone. 27, I do think that we need maybe a little more clarity on. 30, I can give you many examples why we would have something like this. Maybe not for every grant, but I know certain people within the district have the right to sign the bottom line on federal grants. I'm pretty sure Dr. Summers is one of them. So it is important because then there's other grants out there that can interfere with other grants. I'll leave that alone. But there is reasons that is in there. And it has nothing to do with, the, I would say in the weeds things on Amazon, but there is a reason that is there. And then again, engaging in unprofessional, immoral, unbecoming. Sad that we have to define that. I don't know if I have to define that. If I'm the employer, then you're going to know what my expectations are. And I know that we have other policies that coincide with this that take care of that. I don't think we need to take out unprofessional, immoral, or unbecoming. I don't think we need to define it because we're going to get in the weeds because unfortunately, again, we live in a day and age that we call evil good and good evil. So I don't see taking out. And then I guess the last one I will speak to, the photograph. I did hear what Dr. Hernandez said, and that is the non-educational reasons and personal social media, that those are reasons that you would not video or photograph a student, a minor. And again, employee code of conduct. That's all I have. Thanks.
Clerk Toby, do you have any questions or comments?
I think, this is very extensively cited with several ARS codes behind it. Most of these policies either have an ARS code, a lawsuit, or a name attached to it, as we all know. So I think this is common sense. Like, we're not going to allow government employees, our staff, right, to photograph or record video students during the school day, so while they're getting paid, for non-educational reasons on their personal social media account. I think that is pretty clear and goes without saying, unfortunately, but as with the other 31 policies, it must be said. Thank you.
Yes, I appreciate this policy, and I actually like having the separate ones because I feel like the grooming policy was a different idea. We were looking at a specific concern in that regard, and this one is setting the standards for how the employees should be behaving in schools, right? Like, I would love to see that that brought back into the profession because it is such a high-held profession. And you go anywhere else, there's a code of conduct for doctors, there's a code of conduct for lawyers, there's a code of conduct for police officers, firefighters. it's because they're in a very important role, and what they do changes the lives of the people around them. And in this case, we're talking about children. So I would rather have more things written down, because this is also in regards to what type of interactions are happening with our kids. And I did ask this, so just clarifying, this was a trust policy. We've had a similar policy with ASBA. I did ask for the photography recording, because I've seen on social media of teachers that will make videos with students and put it on their own TikTok page. And I feel like that is doing a disservice to the profession when that happens. Also, I think it's just highly inappropriate. You are supposed to be there to help the students learn. You're not there to make TikTok videos with kids. And I think it's just setting that standard of professionalism. You go to any other corporate company, they have that professionalism in the workforce. And we have that in all of our other government employee positions. And I think, I mean, it is, like Ms. Bowles, it is sad that we have to define these things. Just the fact of when you go out in the community, when I take my kids to the grocery store, they see their teachers or they see their assistant principals in the grocery store, and they're excited to see them. And I know that they have such high standards built into them that they're not going to turn around and start flipping people off down the grocery aisle, because they know that they just saw their students that, like, it's when we have in the news a teacher that is pointing at her neck in regards to somebody driving by with a Charlie Kirk sign with a gun to her neck, like, that's just shocking, because you're there to inspire the kids in the classroom, and they see you beyond the classroom. They see you in the community, and they look up to you when they're in the classroom and learning, and they're excited to see you as your teacher. And when you do stuff like that, I feel like it just lets down the kids. And that's what I want to stay here for. I want it to be standards for ensuring that our students are being inspired and they're also in a safe environment. And so I appreciate you, Talia, for working on this code of conduct and adding in the stuff that some of the board members asked for. So I love this. Thank you.
Thank you. And just, if I may, just typically, as we talk about this policy, code of conducts are usually kind of that umbrella policy. And so you will reference other policies or other pieces. And so this is kind of the first that then I think that the boundaries policy or the non-grooming policy came out of as more definition and more information. So I think as a result, there is that overlap that came because we were addressing that, and it's separate without referring back to this one to see like what had already been addressed or been taken care of. So I think both can exist. I think as long as we keep them consistent and we don't end up with any internal inconsistencies, we can continue to work with that.
Great. Thank you for that explanation. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Board members, do you have any? Oh, Clerk Toby.
I got one more thing.
Okay, and then Mrs. Ewing, I'll come to you next.
As with many of these policies, like, I do believe that 99.9% of our staff and teachers don't engage in this kind of behavior. And so I just want to make that on the record, because, like, yes, we're making this policy, but it's not an indication of the vast majority of our teachers and the behavior that they're engaging in. This is for us to, again, set the standard and communicate clear expectations for that 0.1%, if that might engage in this behavior. So thank you.
Thank you.
Mrs. Ewing, did you have another question or comment?
Just a quick comment, and I think Mrs. Vistainer, Talia, you already mentioned this, but first off, I think having an employee code of conduct, I don't think any of the board members said that we shouldn't have it, but I think that's expected at any employer. But I do like how, like in line under the shall, under line 9, it makes a statement and then it says as set forth in policy 204, 4204. And I think that we can do that more often in this, where we can actually be able to shrink that and be able to refer to other policies. So that's kind of what I was referring to, so that we're not getting rid of really any standards, but just consolidating it a little bit and making reference to the other policies, like our no grooming policy that really defines it and so forth. So that was, I just wanted to clarify what my ask was on that. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, if no further questions or comments, thank you so much. We appreciate it. Moving on to 8 action items. 8.1, approval of district acceptance of the U.S. Department of Justice School Violence Prevention Program SVPP Award. Mr. Molino, welcome.
Good evening, President Rooks, members of the Governing Board, Dr. Summers, Cabinet, and guests. The Community-Oriented Policing Services Office of the Department of Justice has awarded the school district the School Violence Prevention Program grant. The $500,000 grant award will be matched with $168,390 by the district. The funding will be used for additional security cameras and handheld weapons detection devices at all schools, and door access control system replacement at the 7 high schools. At this time, we present this award opportunity to the Governing Board for consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Molino. We don't have any public comment tied to this line item. So, Mrs. Ewing, do you have any questions?
I don't really have any questions, but I just have a comment. So I think it was Mr. Toby, you originally started us on this path of just ways that we can look to use our grants. The way that we can look to use our grant system. Oh, do we have a public comment? No, it's all right. Mrs. Rooks, you want to go ahead and do that public comment? Okay.
Yes, I apologize. As you just probably forgot to hand it to me, but I have it here. Yes, public comment, you'll have 3 minutes. Anthony Campbell McDonald.
So I've actually looked a lot into the topic of school safety. One concern I have is I don't want the school safety to affect the educational environment that schools should have. I get that the thought of a threat on campus at one of our schools is harrowing, and I think we should be prepared for something like that. But again, I don't want it to affect the school's environment. I've seen a few things explain how oftentimes some schools take safety a little too far and how it may actually make students feel less safe because it makes the thought of a threat on campus seem inevitable. I've seen some schools make themselves basically a fortress. I saw a recent article about the, quote, billion-dollar school shooting industry. There are schools and companies who put money into active shooter simulators, drones, facial recognition software, like things that cost thousands of dollars. I feel a lot of that isn't necessary, and it makes those students very uncomfortable. While shootings do happen at schools way too often in this country, they still are exceedingly rare, and safety measures like that actually don't make students feel safer. Many times has the opposite effect. Now, obviously, this policy didn't have anything like that. All I saw was like more funding for SROs and cameras. I forgot if there's anything about metal detectors, but those things don't really affect the school environment all that much. But I hope it doesn't get to that point in this district. I feel this kind of thing, while schools can implement safety measures and programs, I think it's up to our lawmakers, representatives to pass sensible gun safety legislation. That's not something a school district can really do, but I do think safety should be on districts' minds. One thing I would want the district to focus on is like prevention, like directly. A lot of times perpetrators of shootings and violence in general, especially in kids and teenagers, they show very prevalent warning signs and red flags, and I feel educating students to look out for those signs and to say something to a parent or teacher when they recognize them would actually be much more effective in stopping school violence in general. I've actually been following the Sandy Hook Promise for a while now, and I think they do a great job in that regard. Again, I'd like to see more of that stuff in this district, not just like physical safety measures, again, educating students and recognizing warning signs and saying something, because it doesn't just prevent shootings, but like violence in general among students. Thank you.
Thank you for your public comment. All right, Mr. Molino, welcome back. Ms. Ewing, do you want to continue?
Okay. All right, so I'll just kind of start over. So Mr. Toby, I think you were the one who started us down this path of really being able to explore all of our safety grant opportunities to make sure we were taking advantage of that to really bolster up our school safety program. So just wanted to talk about that. I think that we had our speaker bring up a really good point, is we never want to put so many safety measures in place that then our schools tend to look like prisons. And so I think that the things that we're going after in here are not things that take away from just the look of our schools and our campuses. At some point with school safety programs, we will have to take a look at not just how are we securing our buildings, but how are we building relationships with our students and supporting our students, because threats can come from people as well. So people within the schools, and I don't think we have a really good support system set in place for our students. But I do want to say that I'm very happy that we are a recipient of this. I know that there was some discussions about the language and what was in the grant applications, and that was a little bit of a misstep by the district, but what we were awarded is not a program, it is things. So that does not, the language that we were more concerned about has more to do with kind of programming, and this was things that we were awarded. So I appreciate all the effort that went into this, and I'm looking forward to supporting this and voting yes, and as soon as the federal government opens up, then being able to implement it and get it into our schools. So thank you to you and all your team for all the work that you did on this. Thank you.
Mrs. Profit, do you have any questions or comments?
I just want to echo what Ms. Ewing said about, in the past I have voiced concerns about programs being dependent on grants and how we foundationally build programs that are more permanent. I will say, with the talk about the grant narrative, what we can do is move forward, and I can say as a district we have moved forward in ensuring that we tighten up our grant writing and grant narrative process. That being said, this grant is about stuff. It's not about people or programs, it's about equipment. Anthony, thank you for expressing your thoughts. I totally agree with you. No one wants to go to school and feel like they're at the TSA. It does. It's scary. The good news is, 2 of the 3 things we're talking about already exist in schools, and my husband was just at one of the largest security conferences in DC a few weeks ago. The technology that's coming out and some of the things that we are utilizing, which we may or may not, to Mr. Toby's point, speak about in its entirety from the dais, because you want to kind of maintain a little bit of a mystery behind our safety proceedings. But a lot of what's coming out it does not affect the educational environment. So metal detectors, what you think of in your head, they're really not like that anymore. But I absolutely appreciate what you say. As kids, I remember when we started doing the drills, initially they were scary for some students. And so just wanted to reassure you that what we're talking about with this grant should not affect the educational experience for students, but it will affect the safety greatly in our schools. So I'm very excited about this grant, and I wanted to thank the district for, again, in the spirit of moving forward, tightening up our grant writing and approval process to ensure that we're always able to utilize grants properly and able to apply this is a perfect example of what grants are great at, which is giving us equipment for safety. So thank you.
Mrs. Bowles, do you have any questions or comments?
No questions, just comment on the narrative for this grant. Again, for those that are out there that are not in the room, I'm not sure why restorative justice was part of the narrative in this grant when we're talking about things. I also am not sure how we even got it passed for that reason. When you go on federal grants, and anybody can do this, go into, well, not every federal grant, you can not get into everyone, but there is every one of them have stipulations, and most of which say for Americans, for non-DEI, all the things that we already went through. So kind of we have egg on our face as a district because that happened. I am grateful that we have the funds. Just not sure people that are not in the room what they know, when we have that on paper. So I'm glad we got the money. I'm glad that we have the safety for kids. I mean, that's a no-brainer. But yeah, I am not sure. I guess that's all I'll say. Thanks.
Clerk Toby, do you have any questions or comments?
Just want to say thank you, Mr. Merlino, for you and your team in putting this together. Grant writing is not easy, and we have $500,000 now that we can use towards safety. And so because of your and your team's efforts and applying for it, now our district will benefit from it. So thank you again for being diligent on this. And I would just ask that maybe we can later down the road, as far as a tertiary ask or maybe an expansion of scope, incorporate other things related to some of these items that might qualify under the same avenues, right? But other than that, thank you so much, and I'm excited to see the rollout of some of our new safety measures.
Thank you. So I just wanted to make note on, it says condition 42. It just talks about recipients awarded funding through SVPP must conduct comprehensive school safety assessments for all schools involved in the funded project within 12 months of accepting the award. So just when that happens, if the board can get an update, if that needs to be Friday report, executive session, because it's safety, that would be great when that's ready. And then just a couple of things. So with regards to what was in the original grant narrative, it just stated a couple of times, but it says to prevent the criminalization of student behavior, we will continue to follow our district's established discipline matrix, which emphasizes restorative practices. So for me, that was just a bit frustrating because we're trying to move away from that. We're trying to, and again, I just didn't understand why that's in there if this is supposed to be for cameras and equipment and safety infrastructure at our schools. So it was just a bit frustrating at the time to see that in there. So I do look forward to moving forward. But I also just want to make a couple of further comments. Just with regards to what was said in the public comment, it does say on here that the cameras that are installed are not going to be installed in instructional spaces or restrooms, and features such as facial recognition and audio recording are disabled to protect privacy. So I do appreciate that. And then also, I just want to make note that if we protect banks, airports, which I get it, TSA, I don't necessarily see it as scary. I see it more as like it's a long wait to get through it. But I know that it's important because when I'm flying with my son, I want to make sure that there are safety measures in place when we're on an airplane up in the sky. So if we're able to protect our banks and our airports and our football stadiums, why not our schools that have children and staff in them? And so I feel like that's important. I don't see it as making it look so scary. I see it as I would rather my children are protecting the schools. I would rather have that as a board member, the duty that I was sworn to protect those kids, and making sure that our schools are protected. And if this is the way that we can do that, I think my only suggestion is I'm just very frustrated with the restorative practice language, because it's me voting and putting my name on something, and I'm in support of the infrastructure and the safety equipment, but I'm not in support of the restorative practices language that was written into the grant narrative. And I want to make sure that we're moving forward with that. So,
President Rooks, if I may.
Yes.
I motion to approve the district to accept the award of the U.S. Department of Justice Community-Oriented Policy Services Office under the funding opportunity entitled 2025 COPS Office School Violence Prevention Program Solicitation with a memo addressed to the Federal Program Director of the U.S. Department of Justice and to the community on district Facebook, social media, all of those entities that the governing board will not support nor promote the restorative practice language in the original grant narrative drafted by the district.
I will second that motion. Azure, I don't know, that was a long sentence. I don't know if you want Ms. Bowles to repeat it for you. Oh, okay. If that helps. We'll just give her a few minutes to type that up.
President Rooks, members of the board, I have the motion as move to approve the district to accept the award of the U.S. Department of Justice Community-Oriented Policing Services, COPS, office under the funding opportunity entitled 2025 COPS Office School Violence Prevention Program Solicitation, SVPP, with a memo addressed to the Federal Program Director of the U.S. Department of Justice and to the community on the district Facebook social media that the governing board will not support nor promote the restorative practice language in the original grant narrative drafted by the district, with a motion by Ms. Bowles and a second by President Rooks.
Yes, thank you, Azure, for that. And then if you could run us through a voice vote, please.
Mrs. Proudfit?
Yes.
Mrs. Ewing?
Yes.
Ms. Bowles?
Yes.
President Rooks?
Yes.
Mr. Toby?
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion passes with 5 yeas. Thank you, Mr. Molina. Okay, moving on to 8.2, approval to add new cooperative contract for fiscal year 2026. Ms. Rodriguez, welcome.
Yes, good evening, President Rooks, members of the board, superintendent, and community. So this evening, I am bringing to you a request to approve a co-op contract for Mojave for our computer, peripheral software, AV equipment, technology, accessories, and services. This is replacing a contract that expired on October 2nd, actually. So we feel that it is in the best interest of the district to be able to have a co-op so that we can purchase the items we need for our students.
Thank you so much. We don't have any public comment tied to the slide item. So Mrs. Ewing, do you have any questions or comments?
I don't have any questions, but I just want to say with the PUPC meeting you were having, when talking about school finance, we talked about cooperative contracts on how that allows the district to get better pricing. And I mentioned how I really appreciate that you keep bringing these forward for us so that we can make sure that we are using our resources wisely. So thank you again for bringing this forward.
Ms. Proudfit, do you have any questions?
None for me.
Okay. Mrs. Bowles, do you have any questions or comments?
No, I don't have any, thanks.
Clerk Toby, do you have any questions or comments?
No, thank you.
I don't have any either, but thank you for bringing this to us. So with that, I just need a motion on the floor.
I will move to approve the addition of the cooperative contract Mojave RFP 25E-0626 computer hardware, peripherals, software, AV equipment, technology, accessories, and services, replacing the expiring contract Mojave RFP 0528 that expired on 10/2/25.
I'll second.
So we have a motion made by Mrs. Profit and a second made by Mrs. Ewing. And if you could run us through a voice vote, please.
Ms. Bowles?
Yes.
Mrs. Proudfit?
Yes.
President Rooks?
Yes.
Mrs. Ewing?
Yes.
Mr. Toby?
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion passes with 5 yeas. Moving on to 8.3, approval to add vendor Climate Tech LLC to cooperative contract 1 GPA RFP 25-07P, safety and security products, services, and systems, and to increase annual expenditure. Ooh, that was a, welcome, Ms. Rodriguez again. That was a long one to read.
Thank you, President Rooks, members of the board, Dr. Summers, and our community. I am bringing this one forward. So Climate Tech has been an approved vendor in prior board meetings, but this is a different contract. So this contract allows us to purchase safety equipment and products from them, and security products. Particularly what we're looking at is an open gate and an option in a vendor that will provide that product to us. So we have found this contract under 1 GPA, and we're asking you this evening to allow us to have an option to purchase from Climate Tech.
Thank you so much. Mrs. Ewing, do you have any questions or comments?
I don't have any questions.
Mrs. Profit, do you have any questions or comments?
None for me.
Mrs. Bowles?
I'm not sure, because I'm not sure which one we're on. We had two brought forward, correct?
8.3, we are on.
No, and I know
Oh,
what we're
I'm
on
sorry.
there. Can you,
Could we maybe pull it up on the screens too? I don't know if that will help.
because they're both.
Thank you.
And if you can please pull up the PDF attached, thank you.
No, I don't have any questions on that. Thanks.
Clerk Toby, do you have any questions? No, I don't have any either. So with that, I just need a motion on the floor.
A motion to approve the addition of Climate Tech as a vendor on the 1 GPA 25-07 Safety and Security Products, Services, and Systems, which was previously approved by this governing board on January 13th, 2025.
I will second.
So we have a motion made by Clerk Toby and a second made by Mrs. Proudfit. And if you could run us through a voice vote, please.
Mrs. Ewing?
Yes.
Mr. Toby?
Yes.
Ms. Bowles?
Yes.
Mrs. Proudfit?
Yes.
President Rooks?
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion passes with 5 yeas. Moving on to 8.4, approval to issue invitation for bid IFB 26-31-04 parts, supplies, equipment, and repairs for food service equipment. Ms. Rodriguez.
Yes, thank you, President, Board, Clerk Toby, members of the board, Dr. Summers, and our community. So this evening, again, we are bringing forth this this co-op. Well, it's actually an IFB that is replacing one that expired, or will expire here in a few weeks. So we are asking that the governing board approve this IFB so that we can have services for our kitchen food service equipment.
Thank you. Mrs. Ewing, do you have any questions or comments?
I do not.
Okay. Mrs. Proudfit, any questions or comments?
None
All right.
for me.
Mrs. Bowles, do you have any questions or comments?
No, I don't, thanks.
Clerk Toby, any questions?
Is this just for ice machines or is it for all culinary products?
It's for all culinary products.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, I don't have any questions, so thank you for the presentation. I just need a motion on the floor?
I move to approve the issuance of the invitation for bid 26-31-04, parts, supplies, equipment, and repairs for food service equipment. The awards would be for 1 year with up to 4 years, additional 1-year renewal. This will replace PUSD IFB 01-2903 4D5-13, parts and suppliers for food service equipment that will expire on November 1st, 2025.
I will second.
So we have a motion made by Mrs. Proudfit and a second made by Clerk Toby. And if you could run us through a voice vote, please.
Mrs. Proudfit?
Yes.
Mrs. Ewing?
Yes.
Ms. Bowles?
Yes.
President Rooks?
Yes.
Mr. Toby?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion passes with 5 yeas. Moving on to, thank you, Mrs. Rodriguez. Moving on to 8.5, first and only read, procedure recommended updates, procedure 1-401.a, procedure parent legal guardian rights in education, parental involvement. And God bless you, whoever sneezed on our dais over here. Sorry, go ahead, Dr. Hernandez.
Good evening, President Rooks, members of the board, Dr. Summers, cabinet, and guests. This evening's first read of policy 1-401.a is a procedure that is attached to the last meeting's approved in policy 1-401, which was presented by Dr. Summers. This policy highlighted any required changes specific to parents' rights across and having access to health office staff credentials. Updates to the associated procedure this evening are mechanical and grammatical in nature, with only adding the word legal in front of the word guardian throughout.
Thank you, Dr. Hernandez. Mrs. Ewing, do you have any questions or comments?
I don't, thank you.
Mrs. Proudfit, do you have any questions or comments?
None for me. I love a good grammatical correction, so well done, Dr. Hernandez.
Mrs. Bowles, do you have any questions or comments?
Just to clarify, you said the only thing that was changed from this to the last time this was presented is just legal in front of guardian.
President Rooks, Mrs. Bowles, this is the first time this procedure for an attached policy has been shared. At the last board meeting, we had a second read of policy 1-401, which was the addition of the parents' rights components for the health credentials. This is just the procedure attached to it, which doesn't have anything to do with these statutory changes, but we're bringing forward the mechanical and grammatical changes as recommended by the trust.
Got it, thank you.
Clerk Toby, do you have any questions or comments?
No, thank you.
I don't have any questions or comments either. So with that, I just need a motion on the floor.
I move to approve the recommended updates to procedures 1-401A, procedure parent legal guardian rights in education, parental involvement as presented.
I'll second.
So we have a motion made by Clerk Toby and a second made by Mrs. Bowles. And if you could run us through a voice vote, please.
President Rooks?
Yes.
Mrs. Proudfit?
Yes.
Mr. Toby?
Yes.
Mrs. Ewing?
Yes.
Ms. Bowles?
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion passes with 5 yeas. Thank you, Dr. Hernandez. Moving on to 8.6, first and only read, procedure recommended updates, procedure 3-101.b, budget adoption, access, and publishing requirements. Ms. Rodriguez.
Say yes, thank you, President Rooks, Clerk Toby, and members of the board, community, and Dr. Summers. So this evening, this is also just really a technical correction. So if you look at the change that was made to the existing procedure, it is taking out the language of the actual email address for school finance and just saying email school finance. I'm not quite sure the rationale behind this correction, other than if Department of Education is going to change that email at some point. But our procedures to get the information to the school finance team will remain the same.
Thank you, Ms. Rodriguez. Mrs. Ewing, do you have any questions or comments?
Yes, so just on that note, taking out the email address, I noticed under publishing requirements, it's also emailing the affidavit, and it gives a specific email address. So is that an issue as well? Down in the, well, it's in blue, but it's not like, it's just in blue because it's a hyperlink. Is that going to be an issue as well?
Thank you, President Rooks. Member Ewing, that is a very interesting question, isn't it? So we will make sure that if those email addresses change, I will get the information to the correct department. So that is a question that I can take back to the trust and ask why that wasn't changed as well.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Proudfit, do you have any questions or comments?
None for me.
Okay. Mrs. Bowles, do you have any questions or comments?
No, none for me.
Clerk Toby, do you have any questions or comments?
None, thank you.
I don't have any either. So with that, I just need a motion on the floor.
I move to approve the recommended updates to procedure 3-101.b, budget adoption, access, and publishing requirements as corrected,
I will second.
or as presented, I'm sorry.
That was motioned by Mrs. Proudfit, seconded by Clerk Toby. And if you could run us through a voice vote, please.
Mrs. Proudfoot?
Yes.
Mrs. Ewing?
Yes.
President Rooks?
Yes.
Mr. Toby?
Yes.
Ms. Bowles?
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion passes with 5 yeas. Moving on to, thank you, Ms. Rodriguez. Moving on to 8.7, first and only read procedure recommended update, procedure 3-301.A, food services nutrition. Mr. Molino, welcome.
President Rooks, members of the governing board, Dr. Summers, cabinet, and guests. The first read for procedure 3-301.A is aligned with the food services presentation that the governing board received a few months ago, which states that beginning next school year, the district shall not serve or allow a third party to sell ultra-processed foods. The highlighted portion that you see in yellow, that's what the board added a few months ago in regards to caffeinated drinks. The new wording is just the red that is not highlighted in yellow.
Mrs. Ewing, do you have any questions or comments?
Just clarification. So the wording in red is the changes by the ARS or the law, and then this was what we had put together from the other one.
President Rooks, Mrs. Ewing, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mrs. Proudfoot, any questions or comments?
No questions.
All right, Mrs. Bowles, any questions or comments?
I have a question. Is this also covering the dyes and things in foods? Is that part of this?
President Rooks, Mrs. Bowles, yes.
So when we're saying highly processed, is that what we're assuming, or is it, I didn't read the whole thing.
The ultra-processed foods and then everything that, if you recall the presentation by the food services director a few months ago, that we covered the food dyes, the amount of sugar, all those items, everything's covered under that statute.
Okay, all right, thank you. That's all I have.
Clerk Toby, do you have any questions or comments?
None for me, thanks.
I don't have any either, so with that, I just need a motion on the floor.
I'll motion to approve the recommended updates to procedures 3-301A, food services nutrition as presented.
And I'll second.
So I have a motion made by Clerk Toby and a second made by Mrs. Bowles. And if you could run us through a voice vote, please, Asher.
Ms. Bowles?
Yes.
Mr. Toby?
Yes.
President Rooks?
Yes.
Mrs. Ewing?
Yes.
Mrs. Proudfoot?
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion passes with 5 yeas. Moving on to 8.8, first and only read procedure recommended updates, procedure 3-401.A, safety and emergency management, emergency response plans. Mr. Molino.
President Rooks, members of the governing board, Dr. Summers, cabinet, and guests. The first read for procedure 3-401.A, safety and emergency management, emergency response plans, adds school building blueprints and floor plans to the confidential classification and pursuant to ARS 15-154. If the district receives funds to operate a school safety program, the district shall contract every 5 years with a school safety assessment provider to conduct a school safety assessment. This would be above and beyond our own internal assessments, such as our SEPTED assessments. At this time, I'm available for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Molino. Mrs. Ewing, do you have any questions or comments?
I don't, thank you.
Mrs. Proudfoot, any questions or comments?
None for me.
Mrs. Bowles, do you have any questions or comments?
Do we have a school safety assessment provider?
Right now, ma'am, we do not. So I am sure that once this goes into an effect, there will be a lot of companies throughout the valley and the state that will show up to fill that need.
I'm sure there will. Thank you.
Clerk Toby, do you have any questions or comments?
No, thank you.
I don't have any either, but thank you, Mr. Molino, for bringing this forward. So with that, I just need a motion on the floor.
A motion to approve the recommended updates to procedures 3-401A, safety and emergency management, emergency response plans as presented.
I'll second.
So we have a motion made by Clerk Toby and a second made by Mrs. Bowles. And if you could run us through a voice vote, please.
President Rooks?
Yes.
Mrs. Ewing?
Yes.
Mr. Toby?
Yes.
Mrs. Proudfoot?
Yes.
Ms. Bowles?
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion passes with 5 yeas. Moving on to 8.9, first and only read recommended new procedure, procedure 3-401.G, safety and emergency management training. Mr. Molino.
President Rooks, members of the governing board, Dr. Summers, cabinet, and guests. The first read for procedure 3-401.G is brand new and is aligned to statutes 15-120.05 and 15-154, and it will require the district to train any law enforcement officers employed by the district such as SROs and SLOs, on how to recognize and effectively interact with students with disabilities, FERPA, civil rights, and adolescent mental health issues. The officers will also have to complete the training program established by the Arizona Department of Education. And at this time, I'm available for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Molino. Mrs. Ewing, do you have any questions or comments?
I don't. Thank you for bringing this forward.
Mrs. Profit, do you have any questions or comments?
None for me.
Mrs. Bowles, do you have any questions or comments?
Thank you for bringing this forward, and we need this. We need this in the schools, out of the schools. We need this in training for our peace officers, our police officers, so thank you.
Clerk Toby, do you have any questions or comments?
I'm just trying to cross-reference here. I just want to make sure we have the correct statute cited. 1 second, please. No questions, thank you.
I don't have any questions, but just when it comes to when we hear from the Department of Education of what type of training that might be with the contractor, if you could just let us know in a Friday report, I'd appreciate it.
Will do, ma'am.
Great, thank you. So with that, I just need a motion on the floor.
I move to approve the new procedure 3-401-G, safety and emergency management training as presented.
I will second.
So we have a motion made by Mrs. Bowles and a second made by Mrs. Profit. And if you could run us through a voice vote, please.
Ms. Bowles? President Rooks?
Yes.
Mrs. Ewing?
Yes.
Mr. Toby?
Yes.
Mrs. Proudfit?
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion passes with 5 yeas. Thank you, Mr. Molino. Moving on to 8.10, first and only read procedure recommended updates, procedure 3-402.A, records, disclosure of public records. Mrs. Sari, oh, this is like, first we get you for a policy. Yay.
Yes, good evening again, President Rooks, members of the board, cabinet, and guests. This is a first and only read, as you shared, of 3-402A. Related to records and the disclosure of public records, you'll see just a few updates included here and proposed by the trust. All of the updates that are cited here are practice that Peoria Unified already follows, most of which are pertaining to the request for commercial records, which you'll see defined towards the bottom of the first page of the policy, records that might be requested for the purpose of sale, resale, or solicitation. This outlines, as I shared, a process that the district already follows in asking the requester to share why it is that they are requesting those records, and then goes on to specify the various steps the district may take in response to those requests for records. President Rooks, I stand for any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mrs. Sari. Mrs. Ewing, do you have any questions or comments?
I don't, but thank you for all of this. Thank you.
Okay. Mrs. Profit, any questions or comments?
I do not have any questions.
Mrs. Bowles, any questions or comments?
I don't have any, thanks.
Clerk Toby, any questions or comments?
None, thank you.
I don't have any either. So with that, I just need a motion on the floor.
I move to approve recommended updates to procedure 3-402-A, records, disclosure of public records as presented.
I will second.
So I have a motion made by Mrs. Proudfit and a second made by Mrs. Ewing. And if you can run us through a voice vote, please.
Mrs. Proudfit?
Yes.
Mr. Toby?
Yes.
President Rooks?
Yes.
Mrs. Ewing?
Yes.
Ms. Bowles?
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion passes with 5 yeas. Thank you, Mrs. Sari. Moving on to 8.11, first and only read policy recommended updates. Policy 5-401, police interview notification. Sorry, Dr. Hernandez.
Good evening, President Rooks, members of the board, Dr. Summers, cabinet, and guests. This evening's first and only read of policy 5-401 reflects change per ARS 8-303 that requires school districts to immediately notify parents, legal guardians, and/or custodians if law enforcement takes a juvenile into temporary custody after confirming with law enforcement that the notification does not pose a risk to the student or to the investigation. Proposals to the policy change reflect this new requirement.
Thank you, Dr. Hernandez. Mrs. Ewing, do you have any questions or comments? Okay. Mrs. Proudfit? Mrs. Bowles?
No, thank you.
Clerk Toby? No. I don't have any either. Thank you, Dr. Hernandez. So with that, I just need a motion on the floor.
A motion to approve the recommended updates to policy 5-402, Department of Child Safety interview and custody as presented.
I'll second.
So we have a motion made by Clerk Toby and a second made by Mrs. Bowles. And if you could run us through a voice vote, please.
Mr. Toby?
Yes.
Ms. Bowles?
Yes.
Mrs. Ewing?
Yes.
President Rooks?
Yes.
Mrs. Proudfit?
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion passes with 5 yeas. Moving on to 812, first and only read policy, recommended updates, policy 5-402, Department of Child Safety, interview and custody. Dr. Hernandez.
Good evening. This evening's first and only read of policy 5-402 reflects changes per ARS 8-530.08 and ARS 15-160.03 in that it clarifies that a Department of Child Safety caseworker may be required to present their official DCS identification upon a school visit and a valid driver's license. Schools may not keep digital or physical copies of this personal information of the DCS caseworker. The trust has proposed conforming policy changes.
Thank you, Dr. Hernandez. Board members, do you have any questions or comments?
I don't.
Okay. All right, with that, I just need a motion on the floor.
Motion to approve the recommended updates to policy 5-402, Department of Child Safety interview and custody as presented.
And I'll second.
So we have a motion made by Clerk Toby and a second made by Mrs. Bowles. And if you could run us through a voice vote, please.
President Rooks?
Yes.
Mrs. Proudfit?
Yes.
Ms. Bowles?
Yes.
Mrs. Ewing?
Yes.
Mr. Toby?
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion passes with 5 yeas. Moving on to 8.13, first and only read policy, recommended updates, policy 5-410, interscholastic athletics. Dr. Hernandez.
Good evening. This evening's first and only read of policy 5-410 reflects changes to ARS 15-120.07 that effective August 1st of 2026, districts that provide athletic instruction in grades 9 through 12 and that sponsor athletic teams or programs will be required to have automated external defibrillators on each campus and at each event, including all practices, trainings, and competitions. The trust has revised this policy to reflect these changes.
Thank you, Dr. Hernandez. Board members, do you have any questions or comments?
I do.
Yes.
Why is dance excluded? We have POM teams. I mean, I understand they're not necessarily part of AIA, but why?
That would be my assumption, but I can find out.
Okay.
Can we look not just at POM teams, but also, I don't know, if cheer too, the cheer and the POM squad?
I mean, clearly rhythmic gymnastics is not a problem, but we just have, there's a campus. I mean, we might as well just lump them in.
President Rooks, if I may.
Yes, of course.
Wouldn't it be the case if we have them for a sport on campus, we would have them for all sports on campus?
Yes, we would. And we're, as a team, working across departments to be able to provide these as needed.
So it wouldn't just be an AIA?
Right. We will
Thank you.
have them all.
Great. No further, oh, yes, Mrs.
I'm
Ewing.
sorry.
No,
I
it's
know we
okay.
wanted to quickly get through this. Our schools that have swim off campus at a different pool, is that something that this is taken over to for swim?
President Rooks, Mrs. Ewing, I'll get clarification on that.
Okay, thanks.
Board members, any other questions? Okay. All right. Just want to make sure.
I
That-
move to,
I just need a motion on the floor.
I
Oh,
move,
you good? Yeah. Okay, I was just checking.
I'll move to approve recommended updates to policy 5-410, interscholastic athletic as presented.
I will second. So we have a motion made by Mrs. Bowles and a second made by myself. And if you could run us through a voice vote, please.
Ms. Bowles?
Yes.
Mrs. Ewing?
Yes.
President Rooks?
Yes.
Mrs. Proudfit?
Yes.
Mr. Toby?
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion passes with 5 yeas. Thank you, Dr. Hernandez. Moving now to 9, address consent agenda. 9.1, consider approval or recommend changes to the consent agenda. Board members, do you have any recommended changes? All
None
right.
for me.
I just need a motion on the floor.
I motion to approve consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
So we have a motion made by Mrs. Proudfit and a second made by Clerk Toby. And if you could run us through a voice vote, please.
President Rooks?
Yes.
Mrs. Ewing?
Yes.
Ms. Bowles?
Yes.
Mr. Toby?
Yes.
Mrs. Proudfit?
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion passes with 5 yeas. Moving on to 12, closing public comment. 12.1, request to address the governing board regarding matters not included on the agenda. I don't believe we have any other comment cards turned in. So moving on to 13, informational reports. 13.1, report on upcoming meetings and events. Mrs. Airy.
President Rooks, members of the board, just two from the report this evening that I do want to highlight. We have already heard a few references to Tuesday, November 4th, Election Day. Just wanted to reiterate that we will have the District Administration Center, for those listening, located on 63rd Avenue and Thunderbird, as not only a drop-off, but also a ballot replacement center. So if anybody needs a ballot reprinted, the staff from Maricopa County Election Services will be here and supporting the site in order to make sure that the ballots are appropriately managed and counted. And I did want to also highlight another event that's coming up, but will happen before our next board meeting, and that's Veterans Day. We will have a number of celebrations taking place across our district. One of the days where we do love to commemorate and honor our servicemen and women for all that they do in our community and for our country. So President Rooks, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Mrs. Airy. Moving on to 13.2, legislative, state, and local updates. Ms. Rodriguez.
Yes, thank you, President Rooks. No updates at this time.
Moving on to 13.3, district budget report for the month of September 2025 is available on our website. Moving to 13.4, report on requested future agenda items is also available. Moving on to 14, other business. 14.1, request for agenda items for future governing board meetings. Mrs. Ewing.
So this is just a request that I'm thinking about how our government's shut down is if there is a way to, I know a lot of our schools have the food pantries, and that if our families have the SNAP benefits taken away, if there's a way for Dr. Summers to keep track with our principals on if there's campuses with really specific needs where we might need to start partnering out with like the UCAN group or so forth to be able to support our families if they have those particular needs. And I don't know if that's maybe just in a Friday report. It's not something that, but just that to make sure that we have a pulse on what's happening with our community and how we can support them during this time when they don't have those federal resources. So thank you. And I would need a second, I guess.
I will second.
Is that your only request?
Yes, that's
okay. Mrs. Proudfit?
Yes, I actually have a few tonight. One, I think in my mind is critically time sensitive. One of the things we learned about at a conference is another great technology to keep parents informed of what is happening on our district provided laptops. For those that might be watching, we do have safeguards in place. However, no safeguard is perfect, and YouTube is one of the things that is not blocked for a variety of reasons. So there is a program that they talked about called Lightspeed that a board member from Scottsdale shared. I would like this, if at all possible, and super urging you, to be brought forward at our next board meeting. I think this is something we need like 2 years ago, but ASAP, and certainly before there is anything else brought forward asking us to vote on any more technology.
And I'll second.
I will second. Oh, okay, great.
You
Thank
kept going,
Thank
so
you.
we weren't sure.
Yes, I'm very excited for that. I think that is going to be really, really great to connect our parents with what is happening with our technology, especially as we are asking the community to participate in that. The second is based on another thing we saw in the conference is the Starbright Foundation, an exceptional agency, going back to what I talked about before, that was talking about signs of sex trafficking, and they come in and do a lot of programs about essentially see something, say something. And so I would like a discussion item and possible vote surrounding a relationship being forged with the Starbright Foundation.
And I'll second.
Thank you. And then just one final, I would like to have it brought forward maybe towards maybe even in January, so this one not as time sensitive, but to just discuss, to review, and then to ratify our board member code of conduct as we're doing for students and for teachers. Just a good idea for us as a board to just discuss and ratify that.
I will second.
Thank you. And that's all I have.
Ms. Bowles, do you have any future requests?
Well, since Ms. Profit took two of my, I literally have Lightspeed on my list, and the Starbright, which is Lori, I don't know how to pronounce her last name, Riggerer, but I have her contact information, and I know that Dr. Summers and I were talking a little bit about it was an excellent training, and a training that is different from other ones I've seen, a training that is more geared toward training parents and teachers and staff to how to look for signs and other things. And oh my gosh, I'm tired. In alignment with that, the Lightspeed app would help parents know what traffic their child has been on the internet in the district. So, yeah, I had both those things on my request. I have one future, I think only one. Actually, I have two. A future request for our finance department to provide the board with a current copy of our Peoria Unified School District chart of accounts. Not just the state ledger, but our own chart of accounts.
I will second that.
And then the other one that I have is future agenda item to request to have more consistent compliance financial accountability presentations. I have on here monthly, but I'm open to what the board would want. I just think that if there's an issue in our finances, we can get to it quicker if we're just getting updates more often.
I will second. Okay, Clerk Toby, do you have any future requests?
Just to, at a previous school safety summit that Mrs. Ewing and Dr. Summers and I attended, we talked about a milestone project that's highly successful in Yavapai County and Cochise County. I'd like to explore what that might look like here in Maricopa County, and if we can get that, what the possibilities are for that.
I'll second that.
Thank you. And then maybe just conferring with legal, reference one of the earlier updates. The reason why I was looking at the ARS code is because there's some contradictory definitions. I just want some clarity from legal on the 13-3620 definition of law enforcement officer and what we approved tonight with the ARS updated changes for the 15-249.08 definition. If we're going to be asking our law enforcement officers to go through a bunch of these trainings on mandated reporting and stuff like that, it's kind of confusing because the other statute says that a school resource officer does not count. So they're kind of conflicting. I'd like some legal guidance there.
I will second that.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. I would like to look at, in regards to, I've just kind of wondered on this, I've had a couple of parents bring this up to me, of what we have in our policy and if we need to add something of when parents want to visit classrooms so that they feel more comfortable seeing that environment, seeing how their kids learning. I just don't know if we have anything and what we could look at bringing forward.
I'll second that.
Thank you. I know I asked for it at the last meeting. I would just love to see what type of funding we give to it's the National American Counselors Association, and then looking towards breaking ties with that national association.
And I'll second.
Thank you. The other one is just that was recently voted tonight. The memo that was attached to the motion for the federal school safety grant, if we could see that copy of that memo before it is sent to the U.S. Department of Justice and posted on social media, that can just be sent to the board before it's sent.
I will second.
Thank you. Let me see. I just was trying to see if there's a possibility to reach out to I don't know what it would look like, to the city of Peoria. the council and the mayor. I know that they have a lot of things going out there with state land. That was just, Miss Aries smiling over there, state land that was just brought to them and awarded. And so I just want to see if there's a possibility of partnership, any type of brainstorming with them with some of that state trust land for helping us with another high school. If that is something that can be looked at and see if we can have those type of discussions.
I'll
I will-
second.
Sorry, thank you. You guys are fast. Okay. Did you get clarity on that, Dr. Summers?
Yes, we actually have a meeting already next week, so.
Oh my gosh, see, me and you, we're thinking like light years
But
ahead.
what I'd propose is that we update you from that. We've actually had a few conversations, so I think we can give you an update in a Friday report and continuing. Nothing is materialized as an official action, of course, as of yet, but we are having those active conversations, so we'll continue to keep you all apprised of that.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. And that was all my future requests.
President Rooks, if I may.
Yes,
This
Mrs.
is not a
Bowles.
future request, but I did forget to say this to Ms. Ewing. Her comment about distribution for families that need. I know I've worked in a Hope Center down the street, and I just want to put out a shout out because it's more than a food bank. You can drive through, and they'll give you a lot of fruits and vegetables. I mean, a lot. They put them in your car. You don't have to do anything but drive through. And it's always the second Thursday of the month, about 7 a.m. I can send that information to whoever wants to get that out to the district. And thank you for bringing that up because I'm sure that there are families in need. And I did forget, and I'll give this to Ms. Aries as well, that we have Maricopa County, not Maricopa County dealing with schools, but a different program, WIC program, that is doing a huge fall festival, games, crafts, and they'll be giving things away associated to most likely young children. And that is October 25th from 9 to 1 at ASU West Campus. And I'll also give this to Ms. Harris.
Okay, I will second all of that for you to give to Mrs. Airy. Okay, if no further requests, moving on to 15 adjournment, 15.1, I just need a motion to adjourn.
I motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
So we have a motion to adjourn made by Mrs. Bowles and a second made by Clerk Toby. And if you could run us through a voice vote, please.
President Rooks?
Yes.
Mr. Toby?
Yes.
Ms. Bowles?
Yes.
Mrs. Proudfit?
Yes.
Mrs. Ewing? Yes, thank you.
Motion passes with 5 yeas. Meeting adjourned at 8:51 p.m. Thank you.